Yeah.
And I meant to tell you this morning.
A little late, had a technical problem, but we're back online. I see the picture too. Thanks, Vernon, for bringing it on. All right, let's keep going. John, come on in. We're back in session. How you doing, John?
Oh, not too bad, gentlemen.
Good.
So, it's a little different on the reporting for 2021. They've gone from every form that I put out to they just want basic information for the state. I do have
Format or something?
they did change the format, and I mentioned it a little bit before. The state is actually changing how they're organizing the entire CDVA. It used to be Western Slope, Eastern Slope, and it was two separate divisions with separate chain of command and everything. They've gone to one director for the entire state, so it hopefully should streamline veterans care, especially through the healthcare system. If you want me to mention anything as far as December, I mean, December was, is typically a slower month anyway, so my numbers were definitely down. For January, I had 22 appointments, 17 outreach visits, about 65 phone calls, and 104 people served. The one thing that I do want to mention about the vehicle for the VSO, it is definitely helping a lot. For January alone, I drove 641 miles. It didn't break down once. Put all new shocks all the way around so it no longer rattles driving down the road. Check engine light is still on, but that thing is normal. Still going. So I'm hoping that my replacement will be able to utilize the vehicle moving forward.
Where are you planning on housing that vehicle after your
Friday, my plan is to take the vehicle and the keys to Road and Bridge and turn everything back in.
You haven't run a scan on that engine too, to see if it's a code.
We pretty much know what it is. I can't remember what they said it was. It's just a sensor.
It's not resetting itself.
No, it was resetting itself. It would come on intermittently. Now it's a permanent feature of the vehicle.
And what year is that vehicle?
2002, and it has 230,000 miles on it.
And that's a Chevy.
It's a GMC Yukon.
Okay.
Everything's working on it though.
Everything seems to work. Have had no issues. It is a incredible four-wheel drive that goes everywhere.
Well, we're
I
in the
go.
hiatus and maybe they can replace whatever the sensor is or whatever it is.
And that, I'm actually been impressed. I was worried getting a vehicle with that many miles on it,
Yeah.
but with some minor maintenance that I've done,
Been maintained. No way.
I don't think it's going to have any issues. There's a couple of minor things that still need to be kept up on it, but I'm impressed.
Well, I would move we approve December and January reports for VSOs.
I'll second that.
I guess your signature would just go next to your name on that one,
All
sir.
right. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the report. Any discussion? Nope. Any other discussion? All right, let's vote. Tom.
Aye.
Kevin. Aye. Kanda. Aye. Thank you, John, for that.
And your building keys and stuff, turn those.
Those will be turned into Donna. In the upcoming, whoever gets hired, if you want me to come in for however many days, I would say that, 2-3 days is going to be about it. That would be needed from me. I can certainly do that. I will be leaving a note on the door with James Phelps' number for anybody needing veteran trust fund assistance. I will also be leaving the phone number of the state VSO who's responsible for this county, so that any veteran that needs assistance with claims or anything like that, the state VSO has already said that they will handle it.
So everybody knows to get the key for other things from the sheriff's office set on the door.
That is a
Or is that just
ongoing
a-
thing, so that's been in place since before I got here.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, may I?
go ahead.
I wonder if, this is one of those weird deals about being in office and not being able to talk about a lot of stuff. Should we extend an invitation to John to sit in on the interview process when we look at replacing and searching for a VSO director?
I wouldn't have any objection. John, would you feel comfortable doing that?
I would be willing to. However, I know that I have an inflated sense of right and wrong. So
we take your advice with a grain of salt.
I think that would probably be best. I can certainly give my insight on how things have worked for me. Is that the best route going forward? I don't know, but I would be willing to do that.
I mean, I'm just looking, so if things go south, we can blame it on you.
That's fine. I've already taken a lot of that on my own shoulders.
So remember, did we have Tim sitting in on our interviews with you? I don't think.
Now, Tim was already moved.
Yeah, that's right. He was gone.
Well, we
I
can
think
address
we had
that.
the interim VSO in at the time
Yeah,
during
that's
the
right.
interviews. So,
So that's something to think about.
yeah, and I like I said, I would be willing to do that.
Well, we can have that discussion.
Because, I mean, yes, I have come up with a lot of things that, I think have worked very well for the position. I've been able to get people in my door that have never seen a VSO for whatever reason. I've got Vietnam veterans who have never seen, have never sought help after coming back just because of the fact that, the way they were treated. And
You got any negative press on you leaving?
no, not
Worried about the continuity or anything?
Not as far as I know. People are just, upset that I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And they mostly understand. So,
Okay, good.
but anything else, gentlemen?
I don't have anything.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you, John.
May or may not see you again. Thank you for your commitment and your efforts. Good luck when you get this.
We'll see you again. Thank you. Good job so far.
She's on her way down.
Oh, she is. Got one more.
to figure out a plaque or something. Certificates.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to go the plaque route, get ready, because that's different than it used to be. $8 for a plaque for Jay. Telling you, I'm gonna die down there. Oh, my God. You can buy it for $30.
Yeah.
From her. Joanne.
Guinevere's here.
Hello,
Come on up.
gentlemen.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yeah, can you tell?
You got a new outfit on today.
All black.
I didn't know.
Good
How
morning.
are we doing this?
Whatever you want to do.
Okay.
Good morning, how
Hi,
are you?
good, how are you?
That's my natural reaction.
I know, me too, but I'm always like, I don't know what to do.
So Guinevere, how are we doing?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good.
Still in the remote business?
Oh, it's kind of back and forth, and guidance from CSU is that we follow public guidelines from the county. But then we have certain requirements for reporting at the state level, so it's a lot of trying to make a lot of people
Walking
happy.
two roads.
Yeah, yeah, so we'll try our best.
And you had sent us a letter, correct?
Yes,
Yes, so we were looking for it.
sent it yesterday to your emails.
From you?
Yes.
No, Bill, yours is from me,
That's
because
what
I think you sent it to the wrong bill.
Oh, that's right, you did say that.
There was another Bill's name on there.
Oh, great.
One of
You'd be
the
wondering if
state
he's in
bills,
new business.
Okay.
uh,
William Noble.
Oh, yeah, I've
No,
got
okay.
it.
It just said Bill and then some last name that wasn't Bill.
I did that the other day too. I'm always like, hey, this first guy.
I'm pulling up your
Okay.
update now.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
So you're happy New Year in it still?
Yes, because I haven't seen you guys
That's
since
good.
2020.
That's not a CSU mask though, that's Oklahoma color.
Oh, no, well, no, this is my
You
mom.
better get out.
So, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I got your stuff.
Okay. So we are just at 48 members currently, and that's 5 to 18-year-olds with potentially more coming. Our enrollments wrap up May 1st. So we'll just hopefully
Good.
have some more members. That's down a little bit from previous years, but due to COVID, we lost some people, and then not sure if they're going to come back or waiting for things to be less restrictive. I'm not really sure.
But enough to have that cover all the spectrums of what 4-H is, huh?
Yeah. We got quite a few projects. Livestock continues to be our largest, then shooting sports, and then the myriad of indoor projects that we have. So,
What do you think your total enrollment will be by the end of the deadline?
hard to say.
70?
Yeah, that's about where we've been. And then every year we lose some people throughout the year. So 50, 60 is kind of regular. So,
Well, my granddaughter's all miserable. She went to her first Zoom 4-H meeting in Fremont County.
yeah. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, well, it's really good to not have so many people because we can do more stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, she still shows up in our system, so we had
Oh,
to,
does she?
we had to figure that out with Fremont County. Just working with the fair board. That's July 19th through the 24th. That follows the regular pattern of fair, but they haven't officially set that, so that could be a tentative date
Wow.
range. We still just follow the COVID restrictions for 4-H, but they also have to meet county guidelines. So we already kind of talked about that. One of our tactics is going to be shifting things like carnival to warmer months so that we're protecting as many people as possible. So we can hold those events outside and just
Good
feel
idea.
a little more confident about being as safe as possible.
Do we know Saddle Club, they having their rodeo that same weekend or,
As far as I understand,
you know, Cal?
I have no idea.
Yeah. I would assume they would be, Do you think the fair board may consider going to a different weekend?
I don't think so. It's kind of nice to have all the events together, I think.
Says you still plan on the 19th or 24th.
That would follow the third week and in July. That I had
I
to
thought you
figure
said the fair board had not decided about that.
officially.
Okay.
So
I just made me think maybe they were considering moving that off of that.
yeah, I
regular
don't
weekend.
believe that they would change it,
Raising
but
at the middle of the summer.
yeah. Yeah. So I just gave you guys our regular program schedule. That doesn't include what project leaders are doing. But that's just kind of what the office dictates.
So
Has to
just
happen.
out of curiosity, you said you're following COVID for state and us. Right now, we are yellow.
Mhm.
We're probably gonna, hopefully, by then be green,
Yeah,
which means people ought to be able to attend instead of like
Great.
it was last year where the kid just showed up.
yeah, yeah. That's the hope, right? We want the kids to have the best experience possible.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But we'll remain flexible and just make it work, however it goes down in July. Yeah. So the next item is we're working on the 4-H Council, and this is, so 4-H is a national 501c3. Each state is allowed to run it, but they have to report to the national for all the IRS requirements. So we have not officially had a council as the proper mechanism to bring in 4-H funds. It's been run through CSU kind of as that safeguard. So this council is being creative to meet those requirements of reporting and all that stuff. Basically, we took another template from another county. It's going to be mostly led by youth members and some extension staff and adult volunteers will help, but basically it will be kids deciding what to raise funds for, how to raise funds, activities to do, sending kids to district, state, and hopefully national conferences and retreats and things like that. So that's kind of the goal of the council, is to raise funds for those things. So you'll see a lot of fundraisers and more participation by our members in those kinds of events. So,
Quick comment.
yes.
I was looking at your calendar for
Yes, sir.
2021. You have the fair down July 10th through the 18th.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, maybe
I suspect that's wrong, but I
Okay.
don't know.
yeah, that might have been from last year, but
Yeah, I guessed it was brought over from
Okay.
2020.
yeah.
The 17th. Oh, you know what, maybe that's, the
Yeah.
third weekend is the 17th and 18th, so maybe that 29th, 5th, it is wrong.
Okay. Well, sorry.
Well,
I will get the official
Yeah.
for next month.
This
This
looks
is
to
me
be,
guessing.
according to what we've done in the
Okay.
past, 10th through the 18th.
Okay.
So
That's all right. I'm glad I'm not the only one confused.
Well, now we are.
Yeah. Strike that from the record.
Got plenty of time to fix it.
Yeah. Haven't put anything out there, so that's good. So I did decide to keep on Caitlin. She is on maternity leave right now, hopefully having a baby. And when she comes back, she'll be in part-time till May 1st and then full-time.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm excited. And really, I'm excited about her to give her more 4-H duties. So 4-H is all encompassing all the time. So give her some more duties to allow me to do work in the other ag and natural resources areas.
Wow. How
So
long do you think she'll be out?
she'll be back the first full week of April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Sweet. You don't have to go through that process.
No, yeah. And kind of focusing on ag and natural resources, I get a lot of calls about, hey, can I line this pond? Or can I make a pond? And I'm like, no, you cannot do much with Colorado's water. So I called the water commissioner and we're working on developing like a citizen's course, like, here's what you can do with your water. Here's what you really should not do.
Yeah.
On Thursday, I'm meeting with Matt Nolting, Adrian, and Shannon to develop some fire mitigation education programs. I think I don't really want any fires, but it's kind of just a question of when. And so we're looking at how can you mitigate on a budget? How can we get more people in HOAs doing that, CWPP, all those kinds of components, so that we're really ready the next time.
You're trying to get more than just Colonel already participating.
Yeah, which they're doing a great job, but that's one HOA out of the many that we have in Custer
Sort of a
County.
PR thing.
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
What does this mean here? You're working with them?
Oh, we're going to develop some education programs. So kind of my ideas are like, hey, look at these places. So educational tours, like here's some really well done mitigation. Here's why. Here's some not so well done mitigation. Here's why.
To get others interested in doing it at their place.
Yep. Yeah. And then the other members of that also have some ideas. So those were just mine to throw out there. All My Money is another program that CSU has brought into, and I took a training on. So that's just how to budget, teaching people like the target community is lower income people, so that they can feel confident about money and, you know, managing their money. So that's kind of moving me through May. So that's kind of on the programming side. I continue to work on the community needs assessment, and we're working on key informant interviews. So we're going to have a meeting this week, learn about what that looks like. But certainly, I'd like to talk to the Veteran Service Officer. John is his name, correct?
He is until Friday.
Oh, no.
He resigned,
Oh, okay.
so you better make it quick.
Yeah, good. Better go talk to that guy.
I don't know if he'd talk to you anytime, but
Yeah.
it'd be easier to catch between now and
But I
Friday.
think I was sitting in one of these meetings and he said we had the highest veterans per capita of anywhere in the nation at least. And that's a target community population that we should be looking at for extension programming. So if you know people like that who, you know, if it's in the area of something that you think is an emerging issue, I would definitely take your input on that. And then for the advisory board, on my review, I got dinged because it was not reaching parity, which representative of our community. So I've been reaching out to people to get them to participate in the advisory board. Jared was one of my peers in my master's program, and he called me to come look at his ranch. And so I invited him to, if he was interested, to serve on the extension advisory board, and he was happy to do so. So there's that letter included for your consideration.
I would move that we approve the appointment of Jared McLean to serve on the Custer County Extension Advisory Board.
I would second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to consider putting Jared McLean accepting Jared McLean on the advisory board, pension officer. What, we're starting when?
So I think they're 2-year terms. I have to look at the bylaws again. But I think everybody that has previously been on there, their term ends next year. So.
Okay, any other discussion, guys?
What parity group was
I was gonna ask that too.
he representing for crime? What does
Just
CSU know
different
about our
gender.
parity down here, number one?
Just, it's all women, right?
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Oh,
so I think that
so he
was,
qualifies
Yeah.
to break that.
yeah,
So now we got one guy and
Yeah.
53 women.
3 women.
3 women, yeah.
You're
Sorry. I meant the 50. I don't know where that came from.
So, you know,
You get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm surprised, really. I just hadn't thought about that. I've been to one of your meetings.
Yeah. so,
So he would go on our board appointments and expire in 23,
24.
24. Okay. So 3-year appointment. Thought you said 2. Sorry.
Would say 2,
You did say
So
2.
that's a plus up,
January of 20,
people?
right? January.
I'm sorry,
Is that a plus up, number of people? Is that,
I don't
the
understand.
board, is that an additional body, or is that putting in a vacancy, or is that?
A vacancy. We
Okay.
have, several vacancies.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I
Should've
just,
said it simpler.
that's okay. I just wasn't sure I was
Fine.
hearing you right.
Yeah, I think you have like 9 or something
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
advisory committee for the
So-
bylaws, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we probably ought to get that clarified so we know for our records. Whenever that term expires, it would be January 1 of the following year.
So that's one of
I
24.
can look, you know, for sure, good length of terms.
One of 23 is only.
I didn't look at it before I came down. My apologies.
Oh, 23 would be three.
Right, January 23.
That's just a 2-year deal. Right?
Yeah, that's what she said.
Okay.
2 or 3. I will look and
I don't remember.
What's that?
Whether
the
it's two.
point.
Oh, let me
How
look
long
real
our
quick, yeah.
terms are.
We will just find out.
They might be 3-year.
And at least 8, no more than 12. And you should know.
Wide girth,
You should
wide
be
girth.
chairman.
At least 8, no more than 12.
Oh, you knew that.
Yeah.
I thought I heard you say that.
And you know what, there's nothing, you tell CSU, there is nothing in your bylaws to determine gender.
Parity. Parity is what we're looking for.
Parity, and it has a
Parity.
list of 9.
Based on like your demographic
Best
information.
qualified.
That's
best
where they're
volunteers.
trying to get parity.
Pardon?
Extension
Wrong with
advisory
that.
board is 3 years.
Oh, 3 years. So it'd be
January of 24.
24. Okay. Thanks, Tina.
21, 22, 23, yeah. Appointment, 3 years with 1/3 of the membership being replaced each year.
Well, we'll get on that.
Who's the chairman of the advisory?
I don't think they have a chair.
I think it's
That's what I heard.
Freon.
Or Janet.
We have 1/3 of the advisory board in our presence today.
Yeah, 1/3, yeah.
1/3.
So that means we don't have our minimum of 8.
Well, no, we don't. There's two
Working
other,
on it, working on
there's
it.
2 other board members.
Yeah.
And who are they? I forget.
So it's Kelly, Brianna, Janet, and Mary Goff.
Oh, Mary still on. And who was the third one you mentioned?
Brianna Bert,
No, and then,
Janet Freeberg.
oh, okay.
So there's actually a quarter here.
Yeah,
today.
so we got a 4th here today. 4th of a person back there.
So what's the minimum required? 3?
8.
We're getting there. We're at 5 now. Slow and steady wins the race.
So it's steady. That's right.
All right,
Okay.
moving along.
Any questions for me? That's it, I think.
I just wanted to ask about fire mitigation request we've had from Cuerno Verde, if you've had a chance to look at it and what your opinion was.
I did look at it, but just briefly looked for presentation, not really content,
Okay.
because that's what Matt asked me to do. He just wants to get that done. He's kind of the champion out there of that work. And so that's why he's pushing for it. And I think that they did a good job. At least H&H Forestry did. There was some, I would like to say that they're looking at bringing in Colorado State Forest to mark trees rather than homeowners.
Right.
And kind of, it would be more of a mitigation rather than an aesthetic.
Landscaping.
Yeah, which I think would be better for the community and kind of what that funding is used for.
Yeah, I was just a little leery of funding that particular homeowner association back to back in one really calendar year.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody would argue with the intent and the
Right.
long-term benefits of that, but we're not gonna know about our PILT money until the middle of the summer, most likely.
Okay, yeah,
But in any case, if a lot of people applied, then we would have to have a process to prioritize it from a safety point of view.
right, which I think
Right
is
now,
the best
that hasn't
way
been
to
an
do it.
issue.
Yeah. I think there's one CWPP on the western
Mhm.
side and then theirs, and then the counties. So there's 3 people who are eligible for that funding right now, or 3 entities that are. So,
So you can figure out how to handle that,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. And I did kind of, if you'll remember last year, I kind of took it upon myself to figure out that. I did submit a draft to Adrian to see what his thoughts were. I haven't heard anything, but I just gave it to him like last week, so.
Well, that was on our agenda last meeting and we postponed it. We really should have tabled it, but we postponed it. So we're gonna have to look at that again at some point and make a decision.
Yeah, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't really make a decision until you have that 45-day
Right,
notice.
we
Is
got
that
to post
correct?
it, but, well,
Chance.
yeah, we make a decision to post our intent,
Mhm.
basically, of funding that.
Mhm.
So to me, if we decide to post it, we're gonna fund that particular project, that's our decision. I don't think I don't know, maybe we wait until after that 45 days to make a final award of that money, but
Meaning other people could apply or not?
I think
Post it to fund it, or do you post it saying,
It's
Well,
we
available.
have,
It's
we have
available.
money, you can,
right, you
if
can
you're
apply for it.
interested, apply.
That's,
Yeah, it's
That's
really
what I
would be a
understand.
request for an application.
that's really what it should be.
Yeah.
Then you prioritize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the money available. And
That way it's fair.
Yeah, I'm happy to shoot you that draft. I just didn't want to present anything without Adrian's kind of
Yeah,
Okay.
support of that, but.
yeah, we should look at it at least, so we have some idea. It'd be great.
Good deal.
Speaking of that, and I hate to digress here a little bit, I'm gonna put that on an ensuing agenda.
When you have to apply.
After you guys put the 45-day notice in.
But it could be anytime. There's a deadline.
On the draft that I had, I just said after the 45-day
Right.
period.
Which, because you never know when
'Cause I
we're
don't
gonna
know
put it
when
out.
When I asked, when I was working on this, there was no clear date that we knew that the funding was coming in.
Well, that's what I mean. When do we get, you have to apply for a grant.
Yes.
Is there a deadline on applying for the grant? There's a year round.
No, it's
Because you have to
it's
say.
whenever we post it, then they have 45 days to indicate that they'd be interested.
Well, I understand that. I'm just wondering what, from a state point, who's the granting authority?
We are.
We are, right?
Right. But I think there is some like language in there that you have to decide and report what projects you're gonna fund by September. So it's whenever
That's
you
what I'm
guys get the notice
Okay,
between that September date. So,
Yeah, there's,
so we gotta decide, we gotta get on an agenda, figure out when you wanna do that. And we'll go through our new process. Get it on the agenda.
well, yeah, I'd say that has to happen in February or March to get organized
Yeah.
and get through the process. To get the good weather, we'll be like we were this last year.
yeah,
It's up against the wall in the winter.
it did work out well, but you
Yeah,
know,
we got lucky.
not every year is like that. So,
I would recommend sometime in February or early March, put it on the agenda and make a decision, because they're gonna wanna know.
yeah.
And talk to Adrian and get plan.
Okay.
So now, like, for that eligible people would be, say, HOAs or,
Well, they have to have a CWPP, right, to be eligible,
Yeah.
number one.
Well, they can apply to create one, which is part of what that funding is for. And then anybody, the information I could find on the Forest Service website did not restrict it from anybody. Just you want to have someone that will get it accomplished. So not like some Joe off the street, but like, 501c3 and HOA or something like that, that would demonstrate ability to follow through.
We used HOAs mostly because those guys are very motivated. We'd like to see a little more motivation from over there, but that hadn't happened yet, but.
We need more PR. Get it going.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing about this application, then you guys can send it out there or whatever.
Everything, yeah.
And then kind of highlight the Corona Verde project if you guys wanted to, be like, look what you can do, or,
Good idea.
yeah, one of the ideas for this fire mitigation is holding a workshop on creating a CWPP.
Good idea.
And use some of that pill money to facilitate that.
I hadn't thought that far, but if, yeah, I mean, we could.
Sure.
My job is to serve the community, so I
Well, that
just,
would be a good thing to do. Use it for.
yeah.
All right, we got Vic out there for quite a while.
Okay, I'll let him in.
If we're happy, go ahead.
Before you close out, either I was sleeping during your vote on the advisory board member, or you didn't vote.
Oh,
Never voted.
we did not vote.
Okay.
We had a discussion, we launched into another. So, okay, any other discussion on the board member? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Kevin?
I,
Don?
All right,
Candace? Aye. Now you've got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you got it too, Glenn.
Yeah,
good
thank you.
job, Kel.
Yeah, I know, we just kept talking about how great it was. My fault.
Thank you.
I'll take the hit.
Thank you, guys.
Come on in, Vic. Is Jackie there too? I didn't see this. I didn't see
Do we have?
Jacqueline and Hyde.
Jackie is
Yeah,
there.
goes where she wants to.
You're probably right. We have no choice, right?
Hello.
Hey, how are you
I'm
guys?
good, sir. How are you?
Good.
How you doing, Vic?
Hey, good. Good to see you, Bill.
Good to see you.
Hey, Kevin. You may have to chair. Where do you want us to?
You ever?
I really
You
actually
need to be
would
happy.
like to sit by you. I meant Clint, not you, Vic.
So that leaves you in the hot seat, huh, Vic?
Thank you, ma'am.
So,
I thought she was just sit there.
no, you sit in the hot seat.
Well, you're gonna start out with your report, aren't you?
Well, yeah,
They can hear me.
technically, that's.
Okay.
right.
Who's doing the report?
I'm doing the report and then it's gonna be Vic.
Oh, all right.
So,
Gonna talk behind your
Basically-
back.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I'm gonna sit right here. So I gave Kelly my report and then yesterday I added to it and you haven't got a financial summary in quite a while. But I want you to take note that the first page is just January of last year and January of this year. January of last year, we brought in $6,118.74. We're up to $21,000 so far.
All in zoning.
We, in the month of January, we did 6 dwellings. And last year at this time, we only did 2 dwellings. I will be in after the meeting that you have about the zoning amendments and seeing where that goes before I do the fee schedule.
What's the other income, Jackie?
The other income from, what do you see?
What's the other income?
49.
Fourth one down.
Last, before the total.
Other income is septic tests, variances, like SUPs and stuff like that.
Okay.
And are you accounting for your revenue from Westcliff Meats in here
Yes,
under,
other income.
okay.
That's also the Westcliff Meats bill, Mr. Camden,
Okay,
whoever
I
you
got
want
you.
me to call you today.
It's okay. I'm just wondering, zoning permit fees don't include SUPs, huh?
No,
Okay.
That's a variance.
You said SUP, but
that's under other income. So zoning is just dwellings and accessory structures.
okay,
Those are zoning permits.
all right.
So you got how many this year so far? 6?
7 new homes. Oh, zoning, 6 new homes, 11 accessory structures so far in the month of January this year.
So 17 of them, so it averages $1,000 per permit, looks like. Wow.
Some of the houses are very large.
Right.
Okay, so in 2020, the next sheet will show you that we did 78 new dwellings last year. One was a pre-existing dwelling. And then,
Hey, you
Second.
second page, that little tiny,
know,
oh, well, you got the girl copy.
third page, this one. Okay, thank you.
So then,
But you are,
The long,
this guy.
so that's just a summary of what was done every month for the year of 2020.
it looked like probably average 6 or 7 at least, 100 new dwelling permits per month. Be interesting to see what this year.
So I don't think I printed out a revenue page, and I don't know if, because since I skipped some of my staff meetings because I'm allowed to do that. Right?
All the time.
Thank you. Go ahead, throw that
You
there.
decide.
Yeah, I decide what I want to count. I think in your December packet, did I give a report in December or did anybody?
I don't think you did.
There should be a summary of how much revenue the zoning office brought in your last December, the closeout packet, but we'll see. If not, I can get that to you. But we also sent out 7 violation letters and wait until Friday to see about this situation that I have going on in Adobe Creek. And if I can't get any satisfaction, then I'm gonna have to have the attorney, but we'll go from there afterwards.
You said 7 or 8 violation letters. You got 8 on our
8.
printout.
Yeah, 8. But they're not included because it's just a waste of your breath.
Okay, cool.
And I made that decision.
So when I ask you a question,
Mhm.
can you give us an example of a pre-existing dwelling and the need for a permit?
Pre-existing dwelling is when you build a house without a permit.
You showed one last year.
Yeah, and the new residential other additions.
So we break it down to you built a home and that's a dwelling without a
I
permit.
forgot
And then
to
we
get a
break it
permit.
down to new dwellings. And then we break it down to you're just adding on to your dwelling.
So pre-existing residential other additions would be without, you did it without a permit. Got it.
So anything that says pre-existing, that means you didn't get a permit.
Okay.
What's an example of a new non-dwelling? Because that,
Yeah,
A new
you got some
non-dwelling would be like an accessory structure like.
Barn.
Yeah.
Shop, garage, unattached garage, right?
Right,
If a garage is attached, you get an accessory building.
no,
Part
it's
of the
part
home.
of the home.
And home, square footage on homes, is that under roof or heated, under heat? How do we?
Mine's
approach
all
that?
under roof.
Okay.
JD's is heated.
Okay. So 2 different standards.
For a pre-existing home, there's a violation. They become a new dwelling after you get paid.
Yes,
So
no, it always stays in that category. And the permit always shows it
if
also
they
in
want
your
to do something
file.
later, it's still pre-existing, huh? Wow.
You always have that blurb.
And do they, pre-existing addition have to pay the increased?
They have to pay triple, $1.80 a square foot.
Really, to modify it after you've already squared up on the original violation?
No, you could be fine if you come in and get your permit.
Oh, okay,
But if I see an addition to your house, then you're paying
Right.
$1.80
Sure.
a square feet.
sure.
And then right now in Adobe Creek, I have a septic that was installed without a permit. The contractor was not licensed in Custer County, and the house is 2,500 square feet, and they didn't get a permit.
Good Lord, that's why that very first dollar figure looks so good. This,
No, it hasn't,
but I mean, those examples.
it hasn't made the dollar figure yet.
So if somebody built a house without a permit, then got it permitted, and then wanted to do an addition, would that go under new dwelling or pre-existing?
Pre-existing.
Okay.
Good.
Wow.
And also remember that when we do our budgets, I have to project our revenue. And I believe that in previous years, I projected it around 90,000. Then I upped it a little bit. And we upped it this year to 100 and I think we did 120,000 or 130,000 on my budget. And at the end of the year, we were over $200,000
From last year?
in permits. I usually project about 90,000 and we were over 200. So I want you to keep that in mind also. The state used to have a cap on what we could charge for septics. The state got rid of the cap. West Cliff, Custer County, the state of Colorado keeps track of all our septic permits that we issue for septics. We have to pay them a quarterly charge. That's what the $20 is. Okay, when you have the state guy, Chuck, writing you back and saying, whoa, you were busy. You know that we have an issue that we need to look at on our permitting system. And maybe we'll look at the fees after we discuss the short-term rental, because that'll be a fee that'll have to go on this fee schedule. But also, the state wrote and said that Custer County broke 100 septic permits last year.
Above it, you mean? What was the reason they decided not to have a cap on count?
I think that a lot of counties were complaining that they had a cap on the fee and they got rid of the cap. You couldn't charge over $1,000 for any septic. And now they're saying that
Fee?
we're really cheap on our fees.
No, but what would drive a cost to go up? I don't get it personally.
Need.
Yeah.
Supply and demand. I need a septic. Well, I'll give it to you for $5,000.
Well, and everything is $250 is what we charge for a septic permit. And before I bring in my fee schedule, I'm going to do comparables because I think you would probably, I'm not saying that you are extremely low, but you are very low.
Be another way to manage growth.
Yep. It's a growth management. And most counties charge about $5,000 for special use permits,
You charge?
$575. So I'm gonna do a comparable and see where we're sitting.
Man,
Is our guy in Centennial Ranch, is he the one we had the lawsuit on?
Yes, he's making headway. They're just gonna wait for the frost to come out.
Okay.
I thought I emailed you.
Anyway, because that one is adding up at $50 a day or $100 a day.
Yeah, so we need to stop that.
Well, I'm not gonna ask for that.
so your budget request was 120,000 this year. Well, your request was 122. We funded 120, but the revenue projection, I didn't see it. So
And that's probably on the first page. Doesn't matter. I'm just saying that we
Yeah.
doubled.
So you're gonna give us new rate schedule here first. Yeah.
We need to discuss the fee schedule, but we're gonna have to discuss the fee schedule after we either approve the new STR permit, because that'll have to go on the
Sure.
fee schedule.
Okay.
And now Vic's turn. I'm over it. Done.
Any other questions for on this, Kevin? You got any issue or something you questioning?
I'm good.
All right, let's move on then. Vic, you're up.
Good. Well, first of all, thank you for your time. Since we've given you the recommended amendment to the resolution, Jackie and I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of go over the changes we've made and so that we'll be able to ask us some questions and we'll give you some reasons why we did what we did. And basically in preparation for the
we go over-
February 26th.
We go over your calendar first for Kevin's benefit.
Yeah, and I was just giving
Oh,
Giving us a
that
summary.
background and then,
But you're delving in, I apologize.
are you gonna hand out a couple things there, Phil?
I handed it out.
It's already handed out.
Are you gonna
Okay.
state that?
No,
Like
you
you said, is he
handed it out.
hanging
Talking about
around?
these documents?
Yeah, these documents here, or
You
pages,
already
yeah.
handed it out.
And then what we do on, you may already know this, but what we do on amendments is that we during the year, we take notice of things that need to be changed, like Jackie will come up with a problem and, well, we need to do that. And we'll just keep a laundry list of that. And then usually when a couple of big items come in, then we try to get it all done because it's a long process. So we've gone through something like 15 amendments since 1971. I've been involved in about 8 of them. And then the last one was in 2018. So I've got a couple of pages here to show you on this latest addition or latest amendment. It started in February, and I don't know the exact date. It was a BOCC meeting in Wetmore. I think Bill and Tom probably remember. I don't know, Kevin, whether you were there or not. But that's when Jackie, she told me that you had requested that we start working on an amendment to the resolution. And the real key to it was we needed to start getting to work on this STR situation. It's a relatively new development. There's been some people that have had short-term rentals for a long time, but it's really accelerated in the last few years. And then at a regular planning commission meeting on March 2nd, This was for another SUP. Then we discussed starting out the process and starting to do some workshops. And then this is at the time when the pandemic was going on. So there's a gap in there. We had our first 2 workshops on the 3rd and 24th of August, just trying to go through and see what we wanted to change and how we wanted to do it. We had 2 public meetings.
Were those open, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, they were
Open
open. Yeah,
meetings, but they weren't.
there weren't very many. I can't recall the attendance, but there weren't very many.
We had the town of Silver Cliff gentleman, Jerry Peterson. And I think with our workshops, we had 2 or 3 because the 2 towns are going to try to adopt, but they wanted to see what we
They
were
sort of
doing.
sat in on just the general discussions up front here.
Right. And then our first 2 public meetings were September 28th and 29th. And what we try to do is have one evening meeting, one afternoon meeting to give everybody an opportunity to attend. These were in-person meetings and they were pretty heavily attended. It was probably, well, Bill, you attended.
Yeah.
That was probably 40 or 50 people, something like that. And so they were pretty heavily attended and a lot of comments. Then we had another meeting on October 12th. And then the last 2 were January 14th and 15th. Those were Zoom meetings. And after that, then we developed, we made a few more changes. And then I polled at that 15th meeting, I asked the Planning Commission if they wanted to vote on moving ahead with sending the document to you, and they indicated no, that they wanted us to make the last few changes and then take a look at it. So Jackie and myself and Skip Northcross have been helping us all through this process. And I think Skip has been around for quite a while. He used to be on the BZA. Now he's on the Planning Commission. He's very good at working on these documents like this. So we worked on it. I sent it out to the PC and then asked for them to respond. And then by a vote of 6-1, they all agreed to move ahead. And so that's what we sent to you, gentlemen. So then,
Can I interrupt just for a second?
sure.
So in the February 28th meeting is the date for your very first entry on that page. It was February 28th,
Okay.
2020. That meeting was in the commissioner's room.
Up here?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
The motion was made by Flower to request that the Planning Commission consider amending the zoning resolution to address short-term rentals in the county. Motion passed unanimously.
Well, thank you, Tom. For some reason, I got,
Information from me.
Okay, yeah, not a big deal. I just
Yeah.
thought I'd look it up while you were speaking, and it was a meeting here, not in Wetmore.
okay,
It was on the 28th.
okay, thank
So
you.
I wanted to bring that up, you bet.
Sure. Okay, so then what I did is, and you have in your hand there, changes that we've made to the resolution, and I've gone through and indicated the pages that they're on, and then a little bit of specific information, and then those in bold are the ones that have generated the most comments. I think,
Just a second, okay.
yeah,
So this is an inclusive list of all the changes, not just short-term rentals.
yes, it's everything, yes.
Right, and
yeah.
so, yeah.
And most of the changes that were made early on are in red. And then I think the ones that were in blue are the ones that were generated in the January 14th and 15th meetings. They're the most recent. And there may be, I think, Jackie, correct me if it's wrong, the copy they have is the one that's online on the Custer County website. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, and I've been working on another draft, so the pages might be one off, but I'll adjust those. So we can start out. The first section is on page 19, and that deals with definitions. And the changes that we've made in there are, we've got business, we put in a definition for business. And the reason we did that is because the idea of whether or not an STR is a business has come up several times. And there seemed to be some confusion about it. So we thought that we ought to have a definition at our February 15th meeting. Clint helped us with a definition. Keith Hood on Planning Commission added a little bit. And so that represents what you see there in blue. And then the next one is.
Just a quick second.
Yes.
Because I just want to understand. So a business, if you apply this, then is leasing your pasture for a business?
Once again, Bill, now?
If you just lease a pasture for a year to graze your cattle on, is
Yeah.
that considered a business then for that rancher?
It's a business, but it's a use by right
I know,
because
but I'm just wondering if that's how you all look at it.
No.
Is this apply to anything? Is that
No,
really what-
because it's,
it doesn't?
you have a use by right,
Right.
which is agricultural,
Mhm.
one dwelling and outbuildings.
Okay,
So business would be anything that generates income, either money. So if you call the IRS or any tax person, wait a minute, and then I also got, and I'm sorry, I could go get those, where VRBOs and Airbnb is calling them businesses.
right, I get that. No, I was just curious because for use by right, you define that in here too. So because
Yes,
there's a
the
lot of
use-
people that don't understand that. come
That's
into
exactly right.
city.
Use by right has been in there since 1972.
Right. And, it probably needs to be highlighted during your discussions because meaning people need to understand that.
yeah, actually and that's a very good point, Bill, because there's two things here. There's the business definition and the residence definition, and they all relate to the central reason why we're doing STRs, and that's because what page is it on? It's on page 54. It might be 56 on
I've
your.
got the old copy instead of the new one.
Yeah.
Apologize.
No, that's fine, Kevin, but anyhow, that indicates very clearly, and I got some, I made some copies if you guys want to.
Use by, use is allowed by permit only.
And I put these three together this morning because I thought there might be some questions, but you'll see here that we've got a residence definition, and that relates to the second page, and that's on,
Yeah.
it's in section 7.1 where we delineate
Okay.
uses by right.
Okay.
And so,
This copy is evidently, this is page 27 and then the copy I got, which I thought was the most current, is on 26. So you must have changed it.
some things have come in, and that's why I mentioned that they're going to be a page off, but
All right, so that's why. it's a page.
Yeah.
We're on page 56 with the use by right.
Right, and yeah, exactly, now, the current page. And I printed those off this morning.
All right.
And so, and the one that we're dealing with is the one single family dwelling. Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that. And so that's why I referred you to the residence definition, which is on page 27. And then also we refer to it on page 51 under structure standards when it has a residential structures and single family dwelling, and then it's a use by right. And because there has been some discussion about, well, maybe short-term rentals aren't a business, that there was a discussion, I think in our September meetings about, well, they really are a residential use. And that was not the intent originally putting in here. It was for a household where people live and do, and
So you use a residence either to live in it or as a business. And talking about short-term rental.
short-term rentals, yeah.
Okay.
And that's why we thought we ought to put business in there, because it clearly is an activity that's not a use by right, and it is a business. And so some people have argued that, but those are the reasons why we put them in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and we'll talk about that more when we get up here to the short term, the actual section that we put in short-term rentals. But I wanted to start off with those two, the business definition and residence definition, because they're very central to why we're having to do that. Because essentially what's going on now with short-term rentals is that they are not in compliance with our zoning resolution. That's the problem we're dealing
The
with.
whole deal, wasn't it?
Meaning they're not in compliance with being a resident, like a family would,
Yeah, and
meaning they're overusing the septic system or something like that.
yeah, but it's they're doing an activity that isn't a use by right, which means they have to get a permit. That's the reason why we have to do this.
Well,
If you're not agriculture and you're not a resident, you have to get a variance to this zoning resolution.
You have to get a permit, yes.
Business.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm sure that'll come up again, and I wanted to make sure you guys really understood, because I guess it's a little bit difficult for people to comprehend. And one thing I was going to ask you, and I just thought about this maybe yesterday, but if you go to that page 56, and we got uses by right, we got farming and ranching, and then we got one single family dwelling. I'm wondering if we would be wise to put in parentheses residential or residence. What would you think of that? Just so people know exactly what we're talking about.
Not to replace family dwelling, but.
No, in parentheses, say that this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Residence.
And I don't know whether we want to put, I'd go by your judgment, but whether we want to use residential use or residence, but I think that might tie it all together.
Mhm. Well, if I wanted, yeah, I think that residential use, we need to be a little careful about that, because maybe I want to use my residence, truly my residential use. I'm going to have it exclusively for a poker parlor. That's my residential use. I've decided that. That's different than a residence.
Okay, so we'll use the residence, I think.
How people choose to use their residence, we couldn't define that.
Yeah.
But if we say the intent of a single family dwelling is a residence where you live.
That's exactly right. Yeah, no, I agree. So anyhow, that's, if you guys are okay with that, and we know there's going to be some changes in here, so I'll make that mark. And then going back to that page, on the pages we have the cease and desist order, we had a definition there because we put in a new section, 12.6. And this came at the request of Clint. And Clint may want to comment now or later on when we get to that cease and desist section, but it came up when I think Jackie and Clint, I think that what they were doing is we had a SUP, a pending SUP that we thought people were going ahead and doing some work there, and they wanted to go up and close it down, and they couldn't. And so Clint said, we need to have something in our resolution to handle that. So Clint, do you have any comments on that?
Just briefly, we needed sort of an intermediate step because the way the zoning resolution was set up, I'd send out a letter, and then the next step would be, filing a lawsuit if I wanted to stop somebody. Now with that language in there, it gives us another intermediate step. If they don't respond to my letter, that we can do the cease and desist and put a halt on it legally.
this just explains what a cease and desist is, but it doesn't explain why.
It doesn't explain, well, the definition is in there, and then back under the penalties, I think it's back there
Yeah.
again, so.
Section 12.
And when we move there, we can talk about that, but I just want to.
It just gives Jackie and me another mechanism, an intermediate thing that we enforce the zoning resolution without having to go to court.
Okay, and then moving ahead on, I guess it'd be page 28 now, and the definitions, we have a short-term rental definition because we have that new section, and we'll be spending quite a bit of time on that. So
That's in 27.
it should be on, no, it should be on your page 28. I apologize. It should be on your page 28. It was on
No,
my,
it says short term's on mine.
Yeah, but
It's in red.
Residential definition is on our copy, page 26.
27 and on,
26.
26, on your
Short-term
26.
rental is on page 27. I'm just talking about the definition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we've got
And you
two
gotta change
drafts
to
out
30
there.
days or less. on it. So you-
27.
Right, exactly.
That's what he just
Yeah.
said, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying that on the document you sent to the commissioners the other day, the definition of residence is on page 26. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and then 27 is the short-term rental.
Yeah, okay.
It didn't change yet. but-
And then what's different is on what's on our website.
Okay.
And then those pages are a little bit different. So I wasn't sure which one you have.
Right.
Okay, do you want to go through each of these and look them up in the book on these pages down here? For example, on page 29, we just took out "the" in front of.
No, just get us the,
Okay, so that's what, those are minor edits. Page 30 has to deal with BOCC appointments, and it's just basically rewording, and it just says that the BOCC should consult or should consider alternates first, so it's just a wording.
just moving people.
Yeah, right.
Process.
36 is just minor editorial changes. Page 43, site tour policy. At one time when site tours were done, we had to ask Jackie, the zoning director, we had to ask her a question, and then in turn, then she would ask the question of the applicant.
You couldn't speak directly. to
We
the
couldn't
applicant.
speak directly to the applicant, and it was a little bit clumsy. So we went through and changed that so that then we can,
Each member may.
each member can do it, but we also record it, and then we will report that when the, like on SUP, when the presentation and the regular meeting is held. So that's what that's about. On page 50, Jackie wanted some changes on the structure standards. Jackie, do you want to talk about those at all?
What do I say?
Water can be used in your bunkhouse.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I needed that to be, I just wanted it to be clarified better.
yeah, and then recreational occupancy.
Yeah, recreational occupancy, and I don't think people were understanding that you can't dump your sewage out on your own land.
And then how long a vehicle can be on the land, right?
Yes, exactly.
And that's an example of something that Jackie became aware of, and so we
That
decided
was
to
when
work.
it was an ongoing problem constantly.
Right. And then on page 54,
Hold on just a second.
oh, excuse me, Bill.
So, so you're trying to treat it like the same rules that a resident would have to conform with. If you own, you had your residency, you're not gonna dispose of your sewage on top of the ground.
Correct.
It's just not any change there. The occupancy of tents, this is during. What was your thoughts on that?
I have people living in tents, shirts and everything. They still have,
On where a house is, one of these STRs, what they call them a tent in STR.
no, that's not under SDR, that's under recreational occupancy.
Oh, just the occupancy itself.
Mhm.
So this is just
That's
Joe
the-
Blow homeowner residence in the valley.
Yeah, that's the
Exactly.
section that's
Okay.
always been in there.
Yeah.
It's just need clarifying. Your
Yeah.
STR section don't start until 70, so those are other regs that pertain to zoning that we had to clean up.
Okay, and then
Just a second. The self-contained says the tent are not self-contained, cannot be occupied for more than 14 days. Who's gonna do that?
Oh, you'd be
Well,
surprised.
no, who's gonna police it?
Oh, I don't have to worry about it because there's a lot of people in certain areas that watch everything, so they usually call.
But it's your office. It's
But we police it, but we go out and look.
So if I got a tent by my corral, and I want it there because I'm branding for
That's fine.
whatever, but it's a right by use thing, so I don't fall under that.
No, it's usually vacant land that people show up and they don't build anything.
right.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
erected
All right,
tent.
all right,
and
that
your-
makes more sense because it's recreational occupancy as opposed to, all right,
Okay, so yeah, you gotta read that headline,
Right.
recreational
Yeah.
occupancy.
that makes sense.
And I didn't bring my book with me, because I couldn't all up here.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay, and then if you'll turn to page 54, and we already looked at that once, but on 54, we have a couple of changes that aren't redlined that I'll point out to you. One of them is 7.1B, and we made a mistake, and it should be,
See section 9 here.
it's 7.1. And then B, and then under special uses allowed by permit only. And it says any use listed above that says 7.1, like it, 1. And so that was a mistake. So we crossed out that 1. And then also we're going to refer people to section 9, and those are new
What did
additions.
you cross out there?
Just on,
I
it's,
see.
They had 7.1.1 and they took that out.
And took out-
A.
Oh.
So it's just
I didn't see
7.1.
the fix. It just says in mine, it just says the A's like it was always there.
yeah, right.
And then it's C section.
7.1A, C section 9. Does A belong in there or no?
Is that correct?
The A belongs in there, yes.
Okay, because it's right above it.
Right above it. The A belongs in there. A rather than 1, yes.
What I would do is just get rid of the N7A and just put a prim 7A. I mean, that's just a typographical thing to me. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That would be easier way to refer to it. Okay.
okay. And then the other thing we did is we deleted item C. And I'm not sure, one thing you do when you do these amendments, you go through and you
Yeah,
pick
you
up.
won't see it. You'll have to refer to the back.
Zoning permits is gone.
You'll see.
Read what your C says.
My item
now.
C just says zoning permits, but
C says special events allowed by permit, see section 9.9.
yeah.
That's been taken out.
And we don't know why we put it in there, quite frankly, because we covered in section 9, along with other things like home occupation and SUPs
In
and so.
2018, it ended up in that section and we
So
took it out.
section .71 only has 2 subsections, A and B. Okay.
Yeah, and then there will be a C, which is zoning permits.
Oh, well, that's what I had.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Right,
He's just telling us to change
Okay, I did.
what was there before they
Yeah.
changed it and sent it to us. Right.
okay.
Okay.
This is kind of fun.
Clear as mud. Well,
If you
that's what I
had, if you
talked
left
to you about this
the
morning.
fix in there with the red
There
line
needs to
in
be
there,
one
but it's okay.
document
This is
that we
good.
all.
Well, we didn't catch this until later on, Bill, and that's why I got to look at that and say, what's that in there for? Why did we isolate that? So it was just a mistake on our part.
All right.
Did you guys get the girl cup?
Yeah, this is the girl copy we're looking at, right?
I got
think
the
so.
boy copy, I thought. That's what you told me, Jackie.
The girl copies are more confusing.
Yeah, right. It gets worse before it gets better, Kevin. Okay, moving,
I just got in trouble.
3 looks there, boss.
okay.
I was gonna say the girl copy is more complete and easy to understand.
Oh, that was good.
That was good.
That's good.
And much prettier.
You'll learn.
Okay,
Okay, move along.
57, and this is
An open permit.
permit, yeah, and that's on page 57. And I don't know whether Jackie wants to, she added, I think you clarified it, so you have a drive-in, they have to have a drive-in
Oh, okay.
structure in 2 years and completed within 3 years.
This is what was a bone of contention everywhere. Because what's happening is we're not, I don't know if you understand. Let me start over. I thought it was going to be hateful.
Mentioning how we say things, huh?
That was going to be real hateful. I don't know. Oh, I'm back at it again. Okay, in order to do your property taxes, to understand how they do it, JD.
Gotta be little.
Okay, so I go to your house and I work for JD and you're dried in. So you just get charged 50% of your value. Then as you get farther along, they do it 60, 70, 80%. what's going on is you have a $400,000 plus home and you're only getting 50% of the property taxes.
And they could go on.
Because they know
They could go on for life. with a
I
half million.
had, 4 years ago, counted them, and we had over 30 homes that were doing this. So when people complain about how we don't have enough money to run this county and stuff, it's because a lot of people don't pay their full
Right,
taxes.
yeah.
So we've straightened up this, and then what it says is that you could be dried in with 2 years, and which is normal. And then 3 years, within 3 years, you gotta be complete, or you gotta come back in that zoning office and get a brand new permit.
May I, sir?
Go ahead.
I thought the conversation with JD was to include if you're not closed out within 3 years, we're gonna tax you at a completed rate anyway.
I don't believe that, we'll have to ask JD, but I don't believe he can do that because he doesn't know what you're gonna put on your floor
Yeah, you
or
don't know
anything
what
like that, so he doesn't know how to tax.
Don't know how to tax it.
So that's reasonable, but to me, I know the other counties, because I'm familiar with them, would allow you, whatever the limit is, let's say it's 2 years or 1 year to get it completed, or 3, to go ask for an extension depending on the circumstances before you would make them pay the full fee, whatever that is. And, it could be thousands of dollars. So are you allowing them to ask
no.
for a variance to, or to extend the time? That way you're on top of them.
Yeah, and we just, for 2020, we just kind of extrapolated the average zoning permits $1,000, right? You had 17 permits and
Yeah,
17,000.
or they could
so-
just keep asking. I got one gentleman in Wetmore that's got 3 extensions.
Right.
And he never moves any farther.
And then it becomes a
No, I think
matter
there
of,
should be a limit, but I'm just, in some
I
cases,
agree,
there's
but
a
then it
reason.
becomes, it's easier for my office to keep track
Right.
this way than to constantly be dogging. And it just is an easier fit for my office to keep track. Let's just put it that way, Bill.
well, then it becomes subjective too.
Sure.
It'd be you making a decision, well, is that a legitimate reason to need another request? Or are you doing like this guy down there in Wetmore, you just keep on. So
Well, yeah, you need.
pretty
to do
black
that.
and white here.
Yeah, I like it being black and white.
Yeah.
I just, 3 years, if you're not looking at it with, they'll go up to 3 years and then they'll come in whining.
And then they have to start all over.
Yeah.
And
But the
this-
beauty of this is they're gonna know ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
I mean, the people right now may not, but a year from now, they'll know this is in there. They got 3 years, they're gonna have to get a new permit, correct?
Be the initial paperwork.
Do you count on?
It'll be an initial paperwork they get.
But, I know there's always an exception to the rule. I mean, that's a fact. And
Oh,
if, for example, when COVID came in and really knocked out every contractor in the county for a year and they can't get it completed, you wouldn't
You would think
want to
that, but
consider that. Right?
If you remember, this COVID did not knock out any
No,
contractors.
I'm sorry, I used COVID. It could be any other reason.
I
Flood.
mean, well,
whatever.
we have
You would-
common sense.
Yeah, that's right.
And we would use common sense, but,
I know the other counties don't and they just whack you.
yeah, no, we
Mm-hmm.
would use common sense. And I also believe that you've got to have some rules so that we have something to work off of.
Sure.
And I did that, so I like it.
And did I hear you say you have common sense or you're gonna use common
I'm
sense?
gonna use.
But find some and apply it.
Because I was a little confused there.
That's why I
Okay.
keep rewording what.
Okay, we've got
Yeah, go ahead.
the open forum.
Just a second, Kelly's got.
Kelly had a
So
question.
will you track those differently so that it doesn't look like when you give your figures every year that you did so many building permits? That would look like a new building permit.
Yes,
So
they
we
would
would
be
call it something
pre-existing.
Oh. Even though they wouldn't get charged the pre-existing charge.
And then if we don't like that, we could actually put that in our program.
Actually, that's a good point, because call it pre-existing,
your-
could imply
your-
people charge.
That's our core.
You grab the cord there.
Whatever you do, don't breathe, Vic.
Okay,
I do. Good.
Okay,
So now,
that closes the closing and open permit deal. Go to page 60.
well, there was another one on.
Oh, yeah, there was,
Solar energy
this is,
systems.
we, on B there, we just included solar systems if required. This is for electrical and plumbing inspections. Yeah. Okay, going to 60. The idea came up that we should, right off the bat, this is a regulation of other uses above those allowed by right. And so we just itemized what those other uses and what the permits would be. So there's a special use permit, which involves most of the work that we do. If there's a modification of a special use permit, for example, a number of years ago on Painted View, the Hoods had a special use permit. They wanted to do some other things, so they had to do a modification. So that's another permit. Home occupation, that's an administrative permit that Jackie issues. Special event permit, those are just, as it says, for special events that are only 1 or 2 days. And then depending on what the commission decide, BOCC would be the short-term rental permit. So we added those right up front so people know what permits are required.
You know, Vic, when I looked at this, I thought the two most important parts of this entire resolution for the future of this county is section 7 and section 9.
That's exactly right.
Because it spells it out.
It is.
Anybody, they may have to kind of get themselves educated, but if you read those two, use by rights, ag and residential.
Right.
You want anything else other than that, you have to allow it only by permission of the BOCC.
That's correct.
That sets it up.
Yeah. Well, most of the other stuff in the resolution is how we do business or
Right.
various things, but those are two key, those two
Yeah.
sections, 7
You know,
and 9.
we heard it on those hearings. People from out of state call, well, we don't have to do that in Missouri. Oh, no,
No,
because you don't have this in Missouri.
yeah. It's just amazing that people don't know what they're supposed to do, but they just don't check into it. So
Okay,
so I think that's a good way to start out and let everybody know. So that's on page 60. On 62, we have a couple of changes here, and this is still in the section 9 that Tom was referring to. The one of them is that if any activity is conducted in association with a pending, in other words, if we have an SUP and you guys haven't made a decision, but yet the people applying have already started doing their activity, then that's cause for terminating the SUP. And then the second one.
You defined activity so everybody understands what that is.
Yeah.
It's like continue to build or whatever, right? What does
Yeah.
activity mean?
Yeah, if they wanted to do for example, it's no longer there, but Leonard Bossy had that special use permit. When he applied, if he had started repairing cars before you had made the decision, then he would be.
We just about got into it with the wedding venue over that very thing.
I would clearer, it would be any use conducted in association with any. But yeah, if you think activity means the same thing. Any use conducted in association with a pending SUP.
I'm up open to this.
You can add activity or use.
That's use that narrows it down.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're going to be.
We're going to go with whatever you three suggest.
It's just my thought.
Yeah, and
You guys make the recommendation.
But why don't you write that down
And you guys
when we have
consider
the
it. Yeah.
public meeting?
Right.
And then that could be your suggestion.
Well, I'm just saying that's something, I'm just giving.
It's a good idea.
But you can put it in the stuff you're gonna go to the public meeting with if you want to. That's
Yeah.
up to you guys.
Well, they're done going to the
We're
public.
done.
It's us going to the
No, wait a
public
minute.
now.
That's right. It'd be us.
So
We would have to, well, we can make that,
That's okay.
because I'm sure there's going to be some changes after you hold the public meeting. So, but I've got it written down here.
Sure.
Okay. And then the second one, and this came up also with the SUP that Tom was referring to, is we had an activity going on or a use going on while the SUP was in
process.
and pending, was pending. And so I think Jackie and Clint, well, the recommendation is that we withdraw. The planning commission had recommended to the BOCC that the SUP be granted. And then we found out that there was
Yeah, I remember that.
some problems.
That was out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And so then Clint said that I could withdraw the recommendation as chairman of the planning commission. I could withdraw the recommendation of planning commission. So we did. But then we wanted to clarify that. So that's why we put this paragraph in that said that the PC chairman can do it. But then before he does that, he has to consult at least 4 members of the PC. So just to make sure that we're above
And you
board.
think that's the way to go?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, versus the chairman having the authority to do it on his own.
Right,
Okay.
right. And that makes sense. You know, you're getting
Right.
a majority of the people on the planning commission that agree to it.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. And then that's on page 62. On 65, what do we have here? Oh, 65 here is just we continually have formatting problems. And if you look in the middle you see there's a great space in there. And then the sentence says a home occupation. We just have to do some formatting.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on 69, wait a minute, 65,
Yeah, 69.
69.
He had a mailing statement in there, but minor edits, yeah.
Yeah, we had those spaces in there. And then down on G, I guess it's G2.
Can we go back real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Page 69, G2.
That's where we're
That's
at.
the name.
Yeah, that red line,
Mhm.
that's added. That was not in there before.
That was in there before. That's a red line that has been in there for
Okay,
some time.
okay.
What's he say?
The minimum
14 days.
shall be at least
14
14 days prior to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't pick up on what you're
Okay.
saying. We have should in there. We have changed that to shall.
And that's what I wanted to follow up on.
That's what you followed up
Was
Was
on.
it
it
that
be
change
shall?
or?
Well, it's a should, shall, we
Right.
syndrome we get into, but
Oh,
we
yeah,
decided,
Making it a requirement, so it's a.
it shall be rather than
Right.
should be.
Okay.
That's a good catch, Tom.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 69. And now we're on 70, and this is the short-term rentals, and this is the topic that has received the most comments. And we start right out with, and it's, I don't know what's in your copy, but we start right out with a definition of that in the county, we consider a short-term rental to be a business activity.
Should we reference the definition here or not? So they can go back to that.
You referenced it up front. That it was 9.1.
We can,
Just a question because it's new. I guess if they say, well, wait a minute, I don't think so, they can go back and see what the definition of a business is. So
Yeah. And it's kind of fun to correct them.
so this,
That's the mean thing again.
exactly. And again, I don't want to carry out too much, but the reason we did this is because short-term or because business was brought up several times, and I'm sure in your hearing, you're going to hear a lot about this. And one of the big problems, and I think you've received some correspondence, is there's some HOAs that have business in their covenants, and it says if there is a business, you can't have a business in the HOA. And so there's at least 2 and maybe more HOAs where I guess those are in the covenants, and the people are concerned that if this is passed, then they're going to lose their, they won't be allowed to operate. the problem is that we don't enforce HOA covenants.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think it's something that the HOA ought to be doing and not,
Well, that's what they're worried about. And if they are declared a business, then the HOA can say out.
yeah.
You could have
It's
did
not
it.
us, it's them.
But the HOA has to get all
You could have done
the,
it anyway.
the HOA has to get all the homeowners in there together, and if they vote,
Up till then, they didn't look at it as a business.
Yes, they
So,
could have done it because on the website, Airbnb and VRBO basically say this is a business.
No, oh, yes, on before this came up.
They could have done it.
I would probably agree. I think what you're saying is, I'm sure the HOAs are gonna come back to this language to strengthen their
Say,
position.
gee,
But it doesn't have, what they do doesn't have anything to do with us.
no,
Right.
no. And we didn't take this lightly, this idea to put the definition in there. And I checked into it, and it's, I don't know whether you guys probably know better on taxes than I do, but if you check the IRS right now considers a short-term rental as a business. They don't consider a long-term rental as a business, and I have no idea, but currently IRS considers
conditions.
a short-term rental as a business. And I understand IRS is now reworking these definitions, but currently that's the situation. Also, I checked with tax consultants and the state, and I've got the title and number there, but the state also considers short-term rentals as a business. And then, as Jackie mentioned, we got a document from one of the short-term rental owners. It's a document for Airbnb, and they specifically refer to it as a business. So I think we're on solid ground calling it a business.
I don't have a problem with that. What you did do though here, it seems to me, is be redundant. Up front in your definition, you said STRs are a business. Now you're saying here again. Only up front, you should have been more explicit, I guess. Right? You could have said in unincorporated areas of Custer County, that's considered a business.
True, but the whole document's for that.
Right, for the whole count, yeah.
So why do we have to be redundant?
You're not. I'm just saying you are here because you've saying it here. I don't know that the blue is needed is my point. Is all.
Oh, well,
We put that in.
Because you already defined it up front.
exactly,
You
but
just
I don't
start
go
off.
to the front, I just go to there. And I don't go to the front. then
If you were looking at a permit,
I mean, you can do that. I'm just,
yeah.
but you want to make sure you're consistent. Right now, you're just dealing with it in unincorporated areas of the county.
And the reason we put unincorporated in there is because the two incorporated areas are now,
Yeah.
well, I don't know about Silver Cliff, but I know West Cliff has got a moratorium on them right now, and they're thinking of density limitations. So we want to make sure people get confused about county regulations versus
Right.
town regulations. So we put that in there. And
Town county always supersedes.
yeah,
Page 70.
and just to give you a little bit of background, when we started working on short term, the first thing we thought about is requiring an SUP. That's what we would normally do. And then because we think there's, 70 in the county,
At
Jackie?
least.
Something like 70, that would be just and because a SUP requires a presentation followed a month later by a hearing by the planning commission. At that hearing, we vote on a recommendation to you, and then you do it. It's a long process. And if we did everyone separately, with those seven, it would be pretty burdensome. We took a look at home occupation as a possibility, but home occupation is totally different from an STR. Home occupation is kind of incidental to the use of that property as a residence. And so, and we didn't want to put that whole burden on Jackie's shoulders of making these independent decisions on STR. So that's when we finally decided that we ought to go to this permit. And that's what is reflected in here, is going to the permit. And we've tried to, based on the public testimony, we've tried to condense it down so that it doesn't seem to be overly bearing. And for example, we used to have in there that the fire department would go out and make inspections. We took that out. correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie, but we've taken out the requirement for the 24-hour person to be there. They don't have to be a county resident. We had that in there and we took that out. We probably will be taking out the requirement for phone service because some people complained about that. So we've tried to reduce this down as far as we possibly can. And I don't know whether you have any specific comments you want to do. It's a three-page section on special use permits or on STRs. And the most critical ones are basically the specific requirements, which are on page 70. And then the rest of it after that is just the process that we go through in doing it. And then the only other thing I'll point out to you is that we thought that there ought to be a section in there. But one of the things we want to do with short-term rentals is some accountability, because we have no idea. We have some idea, but not a very good idea how many there are or where they are. And so the estimate, like I say, is right around 70 currently, but how they're distributed, we don't really know. And so we decided that at the end, we're going to put in caps on the number of STRs that we can have in the county. To do that, and that's on page 73, we didn't want to come from the standpoint that we're just shutting down everything and stopping growth. So we started from a base of 70, about a 20% increase would be 85 STRs. And then as we got more data, then we would be able to adjust that. And then one thing that we just talked about just recently in there, we wrote that they would be adjusted from time to time. My recommendation is that we say we will do that annually. And if it needs to go up or down, we can do that. And we think that the best way to do this is to consider them on a zone. So there would be so many STRs for zone 1, so many STRs for zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4. And so that's the background on that one there. And those are the, you'll probably hear a lot of comments about the business definition, concern about the business definition, and you'll probably hear a lot of concern about density and caps. And again, it's not we do not want to compromise those people that already have STRs in there. So if you approve going with an STR permit, then there would be a grace period where people could apply during that for whatever. If it go by zones, say zone 1, there would be a grace period when they can get the application done. And in the meantime, the other STRs can continue to operate because they have to, they're booking ahead of time. And we don't want to penalize them, but on the other hand, we eventually want them all accountable for the activity that's going on in the county.
So they wouldn't necessarily be grandfathered in. They'd still have to come back and do the process.
Yes.
And that process looks like, just looking through here, 2 to 3 months, beginning to end. And they have to submit a letter, do a site tour, and meetings.
Well, were you saying the process as an applicant?
Yes.
What we
You
envision.
already have a business, he says, an STR.
Yeah, what we envision to try to make it as seamless as we can is that as opposed to an SUP where there's 2 meetings, and because STRs are fairly similar, we need to take a look at all of them. They're fairly similar that we only would have to have 1 meeting, and we would hope to be able to consider at the PC level, we'd hope to be able to consider more than one at 1 meeting. because they all, most of them should be basically the same. And
So
then,
you might recommend to us 10 of them at a time.
yes, and that way it would be, and you'd have an opportunity to look at them, but they would be so similar that you wouldn't have to have a separate BOCC meeting to do them.
And they're
So-
not grandfathered in, but they can continue to operate if they were existing, right?
Yeah, they can
Even though they're
continue
going through the process.
if that's a,
No moratoriums to stop.
no moratorium, no, they, if we decided, for example, to go to zone 1 and right now we've put in there 10 and we decide to start with that first, then the 25 or so the ones that apparently are operating in zone 2, they would continue to go until we got done with zone 1 and then we'd go to zone 2. Now there may be another way to handle it, but to answer your question, Kevin, the ones that are currently operating can continue to operate until we say that it's time for them to apply for a permit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think so. It's, there's probably not a really good answer to any of it, I imagine, but it just seems somewhat cumbersome. But I don't know that.
Yeah, I would agree, Kevin. It's a lot less cumbersome than treating them as an SUP when I compared the two, it looked like. But even if it's cumbersome, if they can continue to operate while they're going through the process, what difference does it make, really? It'd be different if we said, now you got to stop. You can't rent any more of your house until you go through the process. That'd be devastating to those folks
It would.
because they're booked out way in advance.
And that's not our-
cancellations aren't good in the short-term rental
No,
business.
and that's not our intent. Our intent is just to get some accountability. And I would hope to put you in a position so that there's going to be some problems. We've already heard of some problems, trespass and noise and parties and that sort of thing, so that you're in a better position to handle those. So that's our goal, is to not shut them down, but to just know what's going on. And then if we do have problems, we can act on it, right away. So, and then the other thing I think we need to consider is that oftentimes we hear, well, they're low impact, they don't cause any problems, but there's going to be some areas where there's probably going to be a lot of impact if there's a lot of STRs, and it's going to be the road use may be up, and there are just a lot of people, and you've received some letters of people that they don't want any STRs in the county. And you hear quite often, I don't want one, I don't mind if there's somewhere else in the county, but I sure don't want one next to me. And so what we're trying to do is get a compromise, allow them to continue to work, allow some room for some managed growth, and then get on top of the situation, basically. So it is a bit cumbersome, Kevin, but I don't know how to make it any less cumbersome than, there's probably some minor tweaks we can do on it.
Are you at the bottom of what you think?
Well, do you have any more questions on STR permit? Do you want to take a look? And you can always get a hold of
I'm
me.
gonna look at this. We got, when are we meeting to make a decision here?
26.
26, right?
Yeah.
Well, these are the stuff that I appreciate your informant. Here's my thought is the easiest way to handle. I can understand why long-term rentals are not a business, because in fact, you're renting a residency and somebody's coming in and treat it like a residence.
Mhm.
So that person that comes and rents my house for a year, you expect them to behave and take care of it just like I was a residence. And I couldn't have, if I had 50 people in my family, I wouldn't be able to use the septic system that's designed for 6. I can't do that. And that's a resident's responsibility. And the fact that you want to treat it like a resident is how I would want to see short-term rentals. And I'll be able to rent that to anybody that I would like to take it, as long as they behave and understand as an owner that house has to be treated like it's a residence. So that, but as a resident, I can have a party. I can make a lot of noise. I can have a fire, bonfire and those kinds of things under certain circumstances. And so the easier we can make them understand as an owner of that business, because now it's actively changing people and they all have to understand those rules that they're signing up to when they rent it. And that's what I'm looking for in here, is that when they come into the county and they want to have that business, that they have it very clear what their responsibilities are. And then it's up to that owner to police it, because if somebody complains, I'm not going to send the sheriff out there. It's going to be the homeowner has to be notified and he has to terminate that lease or penalize that person, because we can't.
Right.
And we sure don't want a bunch of people treating this county as a homeowners association because we got this now. And so they're going to be turning everybody in. Well, fine, they can turn them in, but they need to turn them into the right people that are going to be accountable. And you see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's what I'm looking for when I read this, some of this.
Can I add to that? So,
Let me finish one thing. Because just starting off here, the STR does not cause significant impacts beyond the property's boundary any more than the residents would. See,
That's exactly right.
because somebody might look at that and say, okay, noise ordinances, noise and dust ordinance. We want to get you guys, who's going to enforce that? Well, we're not putting an ordinance in to do that.
Right.
And we sure don't want this to come across like it is. So something that the county's going to be responsible for.
Right.
Jackie.
okay, so if that document passes, we also have the person, like if I'm running a short-term rental, you have to sign what we call a good neighbor policy. And so you would be signing a good neighbor policy, and what that good neighbor policy states is quiet hours and stuff like that. Please be aware of your property and stuff. But you gotta, wait a minute, you gotta realize that some of our short-term rentals are on 35 acres.
Right.
Some of our short-term rentals are on an acre.
Time out. If I'm buying a house and it's on 2 acres, I don't sign a good neighbor policy.
You're not running a business when you buy a house.
That's not my point. If we say now you're going to run a business, now you're accountable to make sure that as a resident and a citizen of the county and a citizen of the United States, I have the right to do that. As long as, and I don't cause a problem that's beyond, like you said, a nuisance thing, because I have that problem even as a homeowner, right? People could complain because I'm going wild. I see that all the time. I've seen it in the letters, right? They show us those pictures of these bunkers out there built with tires, and it's an eyesore. But then at some point, who's going to enforce that? So if you don't want to put the county in the situation of enforcing what other people are going to think is an eyesore, you see. You got to hold the same standards we're holding everybody else to be a good neighbor without saying I'm signing a policy on mine when I'm buying a place to be a county resident. I'm going to be a good neighbor. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I also think that the number one thing that I care about is your septic system.
Right.
That's the only thing right now that's bothering me is when you have a septic.
And that's
for
really
2 acres.
enforceable because it's a health deal.
That's enforceable through the state.
Yes. So
I think, I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I also believe we can't have a conversation about this and about somebody coming here and buying a home and living here as a resident.
No.
Those are two separate
Right, I'm
things
not
completely.
saying-
To me, if you're going to have a business, you're going to be subject to other requirements that aren't going to apply to the average person who just lives here.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
I am too. That's what I'm trying to say, though. I'm trying to equate it to that. I'm not saying we're going to call it that. That renter, that owner of that property is responsible, in my view, to do exactly that.
To abide by.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
So that's the issue is.
I just don't think we can treat homeowner residents the same as we expect to treat a business in a home.
I'm expecting to treat the business like it's a home, Tom. See, because I'm accountable to maintain a good neighbor policy myself without somebody, I'm accountable to enforce that. And now if I get out of hand with it, if my, I'm having parties and the septic system's out of hand, then I'm
Well, yeah, if you're discharging firearms,
As a
smoking
person.
marijuana, or whatever, the cops will be involved.
right.
But I think also that any other business, we set up conditions that you have to follow.
Mhm.
Because that is how part of the process that you get,
But that's a special
License.
use, so that
But
this
it-
is not a special use. This is just using it as a residence, only you're letting other people.
it's a
This is
business.
very-
I get that.
It's a
We
variance.
should charge for that, and we should also have.
You guys make me want to eat sugar.
Anyway, I'm just giving you some thoughts, that's all.
No, that's good. And I think a couple things
And
to
it has to come through
to
clear.
think about is that apparently these businesses are very profitable and they're doing very well. And we're getting, and you've just seen Jackie's report of the new building permits and what have you. We're getting a lot of people that are buying properties
Mhm.
for their residents on, that they may not even live in Custer County. They're doing this as a business. And so we need to, I think the timing to get on top of this
Yeah.
right now is good. And I think the other thing we need to take a look at is if there's a lot of, if there's just an unlimited amount of STRs, we're kind of changing the culture of a community.
Right.
We're not having that neighbor concept that you and I grew up with, where you have people there that you're used to, and generally get along with. You're having people that don't have a vested interest in that. They come, another group comes in. So it's hard to articulate, but it's still a different kind of culture. And that's why we need to manage it carefully. And then the other thing we're looking at is that I think a high percentage, I don't know what it is, of these STRs are under a hosting site like VRBO, Airbnb, and everything I've heard about those groups, they are very tight. They do a very good job. And so I think what Jackie's going to do in the application form is they need to indicate if they're having if they have a hosted site like that. And that's kind of like a form of insurance if they're going to do a good job of running that.
Well, I saw one of these people, I don't remember the name right now, but they showed us the fact that here's a house that's the VRB, license kept and all that. Here's a resident nearby, it looks like a dump.
Mhm.
And so in order to make a buck, you can't have a dump you're trying to rent. In other words, so that there's some motivation because people want to do the right thing in order to make money.
I think also everyone was sent the documentation from Arizona and how
Oh, yeah.
Arizona right now is.
Sedona.
Night.
Yeah, like
So also,
turned it into a
it's a short-term,
homeowner code.
short-term rental. It's an investment town. Also, we are way behind the 8 ball when it comes to other counties in Colorado. Fairplay said they wish they would have put the cap on it. And plus they said, you're 2 years behind. You should have did this 2 years ago.
What they base their cap on,
They just come up with a number, they said, because they didn't want the whole town to be investment community. So it all depends, because right now is the opportunity, and then Vic and I are getting phone calls that said, well, we're gonna do a short-term rental in your county because you don't have no regulations.
So do you think we should include in the zoning resolution language about indicating whether or not you're going to be connected to a hosting platform or no?
We got it on the application.
Okay, so it doesn't really need to be in here.
We considered that, but we thought it might be better because if we put it in the zoning resolution, then we're kind of locking ourselves into some kind of an enforcement
Well, and
situation.
that's right. And what if it
I'm looking at
changes?
the one online. I brought the wrong
Be
one.
held hostage to some commercial view of what's going to be, how they're going to do it in the future.
Because you could conduct this business as a private individual. You could have a short-term rental without connecting to a
Sure.
hosting
Yeah, you don't
platform,
need to
right?
be doing that.
And I'm sure there are some out there now that are doing that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I agree. I know of a couple that are doing it. They
Yeah,
don't have anything to do with hosting.
Word of mouth.
Which
Yeah.
brings up a whole nother can of worms that we're probably gonna have to address. and that's tax collection. The state's charged with collecting lodging tax based on our vote of our county. And if they're connected to a hosting website, that host company collects that tax. What if I decide to start renting my house out?
I keep an eye on that.
Which I know two of my neighbors are in that. So then does it come down to neighbors telling on neighbors? If we can't go look them up on a hosting website,
We don't know.
how are we gonna know if they're paying their lodging tax or
Because
not?
you won't.
It's not a
Kelly
lot.
does.
She won't unless somebody rats them out.
If they get a permit,
Then I give her a
Then
list.
Exactly. I'm saying
but
without a
if they,
permit.
if they
Right.
don't, then yeah,
Yeah.
somebody.
So
has
That's
to
why you
Right.
have the
ram 'em out.
permit, that's
Yeah.
exactly
Right.
right.
So actually.
And it's your
we're covering
obligation
a
as a
lot of-
landowner or the owner of that to make sure you conform to the same thing. If I'm a resident here, you're collecting my taxes,
But
you
see,
know I'm there.
actually, we thought about this, so we're actually too, making sure that everybody's playing by the same rules and you're all paying their
Right.
lodging tax, but also, Kelly can't tell me, so I'm gonna give a list to Kelly and say, hey, here's all the permits. And then Breckenridge went a step further and has a hotline. You can call the hotline and say somebody's renting out their short-term rental.
Mhm.
So see, it could get nasty, I agree, but also everything else is nasty.
So let's say, for example, then you give this list to Jackie of the registered
Why don't I give that to
permit
Kelly?
holder, or to Kelly, give them a list of the permit holders, right?
Yes,
Number one, that doesn't mean somebody's not conducting a short-term rental without a permit. Enter in cease and desist, correct?
right.
There's still gonna be this breakdown in the system of I could illegally operate a short-term rental in this county and not pay any lodging tax or not get a permit, right?
Correct.
Okay,
You can do that now.
right.
I mean, there's.
Right, but if this is adopted, then the only recourse is to go the cease and desist route if that's discovered, correct? Or bring them into compliance. This is all about trying to bring them into compliance.
Exactly.
Right, it's not about shutting down short-term rentals.
I'm not sure how the lodging tax applies, to tell you the truth.
Goes through Kelly.
I know, but how do you determine that? Because long-term rentals are not taxed.
Because it's not a business,
Well,
not a lodging
It's not a
business.
I
business.
know.
That's what the law says.
And Colorado recognizes short-term rentals as a business, and I got the document, the
So that would
statute.
be okay. and then not-
Anything that's rented less than 30 days pays lodging tax.
There you go. So,
And I'll get you some notebooks and stuff, and your rates might, if you don't have a notebook already, Tina and Clint, they won't match these, and then I'm gonna get you some other documentation
yeah,
before your meeting.
and that would be the easy way to do it, though. When they sign up and they're gonna rent for less than 30 days, they know there's a lodging tax and it's in the courthouse, blah, blah, blah.
And
It's
we
on
don't speak to the lodging tax in here.
No, it's on the
You don't
permit. You're
have
not
to.
saying that you're not saying the flip side of this coin.
Yeah.
The flip side of the coin is what my office does. This is just the resolution stating that,
You got it in here.
and the rest is on the flip side of the coin. You don't see what I do with a dwelling. Well, you see what I do with the
Oh,
septic
Yeah,
and stuff, but you don't see that flip side.
Right.
We got it covered.
Well, you may, but you're not gonna sit here in a public hearing and have to answer questions about all of it, not just about this. See what I'm saying?
No,
Well, we wouldn't know it's on the application, right? Unless we see the application.
you're not gonna see the application until, I can make you a sample application and give you the application now, but it's a work in
The
progress.
application's a result of this, right?
I think Kevin's got one because he came in and I said, check this out,
Right.
but you'll all get one soon.
But my
Before
point
your
is,
meeting.
we're gonna have to host another public hearing. The commissioners, not you guys.
That's the one scheduled. for
Right.
that is.
26.
Oh, yeah, that's-
26.
Yeah,
That's a done deal,
yeah, and we've got to be able to answer that. Well, what about the taxes?
then that's what.
We don't
that's
know
why you're
unless
here to
we
answer the
know
question.
that it's on the application. That's all, that's
Oh,
my
okay, no,
point.
you're gonna get the advertisements for the VRBO and those. You're also gonna get the state statute, and then you're gonna get a copy of the good neighbor policy. You're gonna get a copy of a placard that has to be in your window in case the sheriff shows up, or we have a fire and the neighbor comes over so they can get that emergency number.
It's all about holding the landowner or the owner.
Exactly,
for
but I'm gonna show you,
enforcement stuff.
yeah, but I'm not reinventing the wheel. I went to all the other counties
Right,
and
you do
looked
the
and seen what they did.
Right now, you know who to call if my house is on fire.
Are those statutes or statutes?
Statutes.
Oh, they're statutes?
Statutes.
I didn't know.
What did I say?
Oh,
Statute.
No, he didn't.
yes, you did.
Stick up for me.
You do it all the
I
time.
distinctly heard statue.
Thank you. It's an ongoing battle. We fought
The
it.
T is
for-
silent.
Yeah. Oh, the T silent?
It is for Jack.
Okay.
I think it's a good discussion to have it because it gets you guys a
Right.
little bit. And then, did you have anything more on short-term rentals? The only other things we have, the cease and desist order, and that's on page 106 and 109.
Well,
I don't know whether,
okay, before we go on to that though, because as I understand the process now, we're done with you guys after today.
unless you send it back to us.
Exactly. I'm talking about before the public hearing on the
That's
26th.
correct.
The 26th, you've got to make a decision,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Because it's in a public hearing and after that. public
Well, we wouldn't have to make it that day
Why not?
necessarily. We don't have to, we could, right?
We can do whatever we want, Jackie.
But my point is this, that we're gonna host a public hearing about this document. At that point, it's way too late for us to ask you, well, what do you mean by this? Correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why.
And that's why
Explaining.
we wanted to,
That's right.
But,
That's what
but
I'm
here's
wondering.
why we have a public hearing, just like anything else. You listen to the people.
yeah.
And you hear, because in theory, they're supposed to have as much information at their fingertips now as they understand what's coming down.
Mhm.
To have comments or asking us, yeah, this
And
needs to be
that's
fixed,
not-
and that's why we wouldn't necessarily pass it.
Exactly. We don't
We don't,
necessarily vote on it
because-
that day, because that's the whole point.
If, unless it goes like grease lightning.
Yeah.
But
Silk or
here's the
something.
same thing. You read our zoning resolution and we didn't have to do that many public meetings.
Mhm.
But we wanted to make sure that the public
Right,
was
we
well
got
aware.
them informed already. They're ready.
It's on our
and we'll hear
website.
more comments and then,
Right.
and then we can either agree or not agree or just blow right over the top of it and approve or disapprove.
Quick question on page 71 of my document. It is 9.10.
See.
No, I'm sorry, 9.10.2, number,
A, B, C, or D, Tom.
I was afraid to move my C. It's on page 71.
71, yeah.
Applicant
Yeah, 9.10.2C. Jackie, you have any of this or not?
Uh-uh.
Number 5.
Why do I come prepared?
So it doesn't line, mine doesn't line up with yours anyway.
Number 5
So an applicant for an STR permit shall,
appear.
and then number 5 is appear in person, right?
And what, I don't know what your, the comment is, but we've looked at that and we've struck out maybe requested.
Right.
To make it, so
Okay,
the applicant has to appear in person or by an authorized
Okay.
representative.
so here's my point. Number 5 now says appear in person or by authorized representative at the designated site or if deemed necessary by the PC or the BOCC. Second sentence, appear in person to present the application. I think that should be number 6 is my
I
point.
think that's a mistake.
I think it is number 6 now.
It-
It's
right there.
It
pagination.
should have been, that's a typo. You can't have it.
Page 71, C5 and then C6 is my point that I'd like you to look into.
Okay,
The whole thing maybe, you've got a
Number
colon
6,
after
there's
that.
another-
C and
There's
fine.
another appear in person statement,
But it.
the second one.
Yeah, the second one, and it's after semicolon, which implies it's
Should
another,
be another imagination, number 6.
thing that the BOCC might ask for some reason.
Follow me?
Yes, but why should I?
It's awkward.
better not say that.
Oh, don't. It's after lunch. Don't start getting squirrely. Yeah, if we got any questions, in my opinion, now's the time to ask them.
Okay, let me make sure I understand this, Tom.
Yeah.
You're okay with the 1 through 4, right?
I'm good through 1 through 5. There's another 6 that would say, well,
He thinks it should be a number 6 where it says appear in person or
Right.
by authorized representative at meetings of the PC and BOCC.
to present the application.
That should
One
be,
deals with the site tour, the other deals with presenting the application. So,
Says you got to appear in person to go to the tour and you got to appear in person to present it to the.
But that isn't clear in 5?
no, there's a whole nother sentence connected with 5. Well, maybe you do have it.
the first one is,
Do you have a 6, Nick?
Oh, yeah, see, his number's different than ours. So 4 is appear in person to present the application,
Read that.
right? So maybe.
Oh,
4
I see. What's happened is
the
that
same.
what happened is that 1, there's a new 1 up here.
Oh,
A new 1 up here, which moves everything down.
okay,
So the
Okay.
one here is, and
right,
so the first one is provide proof the applicant is owner of the STR.
right,
So that's,
okay.
so we're
And
on.
so we're just saying this should have a number 6 by it. Because that's a separate sentence. It's a separate thing. that
You're
the applicant
you're
should
exactly
do.
right. You're exactly right.
Yeah,
Well, this is yours, Bill. I understand now.
okay.
This is one of those girl copy, boy copy.
Well, and I asked Jackie about that this morning. Are we all going to be looking at the same document? And she basically said no, because you've made some changes since you sent this to us. That's part of the problem.
So how about, boys, if you look at the document you have, because there won't be that many new changes, and right before your meeting, you get a final draft copy of all the changes that we have done, and you throw away this one.
Yeah.
And then any
one copy
changes,
that-
right.
Yeah, you don't want to be going
And
back.
maybe we can date it so we know.
Uh,
And then any changes we make and send back to you is going to generate another copy, right?
Correct. So
Okay.
let's do this. Let's say that your meeting is February 26th, and by February, what's the first Monday in that week?
20,
By February 22, you guys get a whole brand
we'll
new
get
copy.
the document we're going to listen to and look at.
Your February 20th?
22nd, 22.
Okay, February 22nd, everybody gets the document, and that's what you're gonna work off of.
And then if there's a change, that'll be Rev 1 to that
And could you
document.
date that?
I guess, that's really hard to do.
Just proposed on this date on the title page, then we know what we're all looking at the same document.
And you're gonna have your draft of your application. form.
Yeah, they're gonna get everything.
We'll get a whole
And We'll
new,
have everything that we need.
You'll get everything you need in a nice little,
you sending that to us or you sending that to Kelly to send to us for the board packet?
I will send it directly. Kelly's got enough to do.
good
I was gonna
answer.
say, just do like you did to that one and just send it to all.
Just send it to all of us.
Can you post this as well? Because the public is gonna.
Right.
Yeah, you need to have
That
It's
final,
the final one's right on the line right now.
I know, but the one you're sending out on the 22nd is going to be different than this. So we'll
If
post
not,
that.
we'll post it.
Well, you'll revise it.
Uh-huh.
So given that then, because you don't want to confuse the public either, make that Rev 1. Because there's a document that's already published to the public. And this new one that you're going to give us, just be the
Revelation.
RV Rev 1, revision 1,
And a date, please.
and a date on it.
Oh, my God.
That way, we're all current on the same document, the public, and they can't tell it, we can refer them to it. Otherwise, they'll say, well, I got one online and it doesn't say it's different.
So I'm gonna put revision number 1, and then after your meeting, if you guys want us to revise, then it'll be
That's right, that's what I mean.
Uh-huh.
Right now, they've got something out there in the public. You're gonna put revision 1 on them on Monday, the 22nd, and then we'll deal with it. If we revise it, it'll be revision 3, we'll go fine.
Okay. Since I'm food driven, are you guys done?
Are we gonna, and that's gonna be dealt with in a special meeting.
That's what you indicated. It was dedicated to
We
this
gotta
subject.
remember to get that posted,
Today.
well, 24 hours before the 26th, but. And then are you guys gonna plan on attending that meeting or no?
No.
We may do that at Lang Hall.
Oh, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It'll be an open meeting
Well,
at Lang Hall.
I think we'll
We're under
attend
24
in case you need to ask any questions or anything like that.
This has
We want to
be
do this
done
over
14
the internet
days.
like we're doing.
She's already got it though. Don't you got that posting?
I already
ready?
have Lang Hall. Yeah, I have that ready, but as far as posting the newspaper, right?
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
we're doing, is Lang
14
Hall.
days.
So I'd be having,
Is Lang-
there in person.
Is Lang Hall set up for people to call in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, be done with vaccination.
They already checked it. They would have done it today if we'd have got it.
Because I'm sure there'll be some people that want to,
We'll have it zoomed and on YouTube.
and then in person too.
In person.
Okay,
But we do,
that's fine.
Lang Hall is.
I don't know about Jackie, but you plan to be there on.
Well, I've already checked. We have Lang Hall.
We do have Lang Hall.
Okay.
Ready for you guys to miss out on your second shot.
Yeah,
Well, there's only one person here old enough who.
Okay.
is, I had something that didn't relate to the STRs, but I spoke to you a little bit about it the other day,
Which was?
which was the political signage. Now that the
Oh, yeah.
primary and the general election are so far apart, used to be when they were close together, you could put your signage up
And get it down.
and you could leave it up through the primary and general election. Now, the way it's set up, you have to put them up, take them down, put them up and take them down. I didn't know if the language in that could be changed or not, or what everyone's pleasure on that would be. The reason I bring it up is I went through that this last time, and
That's kind of fun.
yeah, it was. Every time I saw Jackie, she said, "Get your signs down."
Yeah.
So
So,
now we have mail-in, and see, that's also because we had another gentleman come in and he's saying it doesn't work this way anymore because of the mail-in. Because the mail-in, he was going by when Kelly sent out the mail-in ballots. So we'll look at that. I think that's a great one.
And I'm not talking about melon.
No, it's not mail-in.
It's
Mail
You're talking about a mail-in ballot.
Mail-in.
MAIL or
That's how they speak in
MALE?
Southern Rosita.
But this would be a time to put it in, so we don't have to.
Revise again,
Exactly,
so
right.
that's why I brought it up here
What do you
today,
think,
because
Kel? I know we talked about this once already, right?
Well, if you're gonna revise it, revise it.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense that,
Just
so
throw
you
it
don't
in.
have to put them up, take them down, put them up, take them down.
it does make this way more cumbersome now, and, it's not our fault because we didn't change the primary and move it way up in the year. But it
Way
did
down.
affect everybody
Yeah.
anyway.
So I don't know when the primary is going to be next, but does it make sense to leave a political sign up in our county? There's a reason it's in here, right? We didn't want them any longer than we had to have them. Could it be from April to November?
Yes, if you guys
Then
change
I would
it, you're
oppose
gonna
that.
see a political sign with,
How soon ahead of the election can they put it up?
45 days.
So it would be from the middle of May
till the end of
till,
November.
yeah.
Right.
Where you got
And
2
I-
weeks to get them done.
I can't remember. Do you know what section that's in? Do you remember, Jackie? I
Under
can't
sign
find it.
6.1.
Thank you.
45 days before the election. is what
What
it
is
is now.
sign?
No,
6.2?
6.1 sanitation requirements, you can weed.
And I think it used to be 30 days, but you changed it to 40.
You know what section that's in, Kevin?
Because of when you mail stuff.
We're in
I would
six,
support having no signs up from April to November.
Click on the
Well, here,
document.
it's 6.5 on page 51, I guess.
Now put signs. Did I just teach you that?
If we, 6.5,
6.5.
51. I wouldn't, personally, I'm just shooting my yap off here, I wouldn't have a problem. If you're gonna run in the primary, shouldn't you campaign for the primary?
We don't allow signs, basically. We allow
Right.
signs that are as large as a real estate sign. But in order to put anything up bigger than that, you have to get a
Page
sign
50, I said.
variance. We have not, we're not.
51, yeah.
Like signs.
It'd be under 51, 6.5B.
Yeah, I screw up the American language and you guys are all on me. I
Yeah.
do a big speech and you don't hear me.
No, we're not even listening to you right now, Jackie. Could you hold that for a minute?
Doesn't say anything about political.
Political signs, E,
Then
yeah.
on the next.
I just, if you're gonna run for,
52 on yours, maybe.
Yeah,
as a candidate in the primary, you'd campaign for that, right? And
Yes, but then if
election,
if you win in the primary, you're moving ahead into the general election. And
right,
And you put your sign up
as it is
45
now,
days before that.
if that's the case, you put them up for the primary,
right,
and then you have to take them down for
Right.
2 months
right.
and then put them back up.
That's true.
And personally, I agree with that.
When do you have to take them down?
7 days after.
It says 7 after the election.
So like in 23, that'll be your next primary. You put your sign up May 15th and you take it down July, 7 days after,
Right.
July 6th. And then for the
General.
November, you'd put it up
So 45 days prior to this.
probably the middle
October.
of September.
45 days.
So July,
So you're
August,
missing-
about 2.5 months, is what you said, right? 2.5 months.
I think it's good that way, because then you can figure out where you've left your signs that you forgot you put down. And Jackie calls you and says, excuse me, Kevin, can I tell you where your signs are?
You even dial the phone for me.
Yeah,
So,
I just hate to see our county strewn with political signs 7 months out of the year.
Yeah, I got one.
We still have
6
signs
for
up
sure.
right now.
I know.
right now, you've still got national signs up, and there's one spot in Wetmore that's had signs up for 6 years.
And they should be taken down according to our
Still says
zoning
Bernie
regulations.
Sanders. Nobody.
Really?
Does it say Bernie?
Yeah, it's on Bernie's place, but he's voting for Bernie Sanders.
Go.
So,
Somebody gotta get on that one.
uh,
All right, I think it's probably okay the way it is, but, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't vote to change it personally as a commissioner, but if you guys want to change the language and that's something we'll consider on the 26th, right?
By the way,
It's not just
Jackie,
these red lines.
we'll piece your small
You
thing
can-
wrap
anything you want to put in there.
back to back.
So there's rules about that,
No, there isn't. I don't see it.
double face
Doesn't
signs.
say it there.
Not allowed.
Doesn't say. Not double face.
Hey, boys, let's go.
So do we want to pursue this on political signs?
It's
And
up to you
I'm
guys.
hungry.
Well, they're done.
Yeah, we're done.
So
I'm done.
we'll have to, that'll be a conversation on the 26th, I guess.
Okay,
That can be.
okay.
We're not supposed to be changing it now anyway. We're just talking about it.
Was talking about, yeah. Do you want to just finish this up real quick?
We need to get going because we're getting late.
On Clint, do you want to make any comments on cease and desist? Bill he knew about the definition, but he wanted to know why. I think, is that your question, Bill?
Yeah, but I think you got,
I mean, I think it's covered enough. If you have any questions, I'll answer it, but it's, like I said, it's just to give us the authority to do some things. And like Jackie just mentioned just now, drug houses that are sitting there, you know, we can go in and shut them down completely.
yeah, it's for breaking there. It's not living it to the permit. It's really why it's there. It's not.
Well, most of them are
No,
uninhabitable once they're finished using them.
Yeah. Okay,
Case in point, the mobile home at Buckles Ranch.
And the last two things we have is on 132, there's just, we added solar inspection. And that's in the appendix D.
132, that's
I think it's, well, pagination is on.
close anyway.
Yeah,
And
Appendix D.
also.
it's in D. What's
The
that?
pagination is always taken care of at the very, very end.
right.
Because it'll get off.
It just needed for us to find it.
But it just says, and in compliance inspection, we added one, the appropriate solar inspection completed if applicable. That's basically. And then the only other thing we did is that on 135, well, actually it's 134 in my book, but we added a paragraph. This is Appendix E, it's on public meeting. We added workshops because we talk a lot about workshops. We had nothing in there, so we just added a paragraph in there that says workshops may be held and they're open to the public and it just is this.
For discussions, not for decisions.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all we had for you.
So I have a question on page, in my document, page 120, it's on the airport overlay. Jackie's done, I'm hesitating to speak until she's done talking to Clint, because it's gonna.
Jackie. Listen.
120, let me get there, sorry, I got hung up
120, when you're
in
looking at the picture.
Yeah, we've imported this document into the zoning resolution, and I find it highly unacceptable. We talked about this signature page on the airport overlay.
And that's not anything that you can be complain about.
Oh, I'm sorry, I take.
Because
exception to
that whole document was done by
Those commissioners.
the airport authority board. And then it was put in Kelly's office and it was just loosely in the book for years. And we had to scan in the picture
So
document.
what's it in here?
What's that?
It's
That's
the
the
airport
signature
overlay.
page
and
on the
stuff.
overlay. You can read one of the three signatures.
He can't read it.
I didn't know if it
Del
was-
Hogue,
Dick Downey and
Robert Downey, Del Hogue, and Christopher Shy.
Shot his name there? I don't see his name.
Bill Donnelly is the top line, I think. Robert Donnelly.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Dick Downey. It's Richard Downey.
Yeah,
Oh, Richard, okay. My bad.
Dale Ho.
They are here, hard to read.
That's not.
Mike, the reason I brought it up was, could we look and see if this was lost in the importation of this document into the zoning res, or is it original document, you can't read it either?
Original document, you probably can't read it, and it was,
I got it in my office.
she's got it in the office.
So I wonder,
Question mark.
No,
Yeah.
it was, go to the front page and tell her when it was recorded.
wait, hold on.
It's the whole airport authority. They're just,
2006.
they're just pictures.
It's a
So you
PDF
gotta,
file.
you gotta read the top of this document.
So what's it in here for?
Enlarge
It's
it.
Airport Protection Overlay District
Read
Facility.
the top of the document and tell me what book and page
May
it's on.
16th, 2006, page 37, Debbie Livergood.
Okay, so it's page 37, but what's the book and page?
Book
53,
is 553. 553.
553.
Page 37.
Yeah.
So it comes out of one of those books and we
Right,
had
I
to.
understand that, and that's why I'm asking. Is it just because when we imported it into here, if it's not legible, then I would maintain that we should add their names out to the side of it if we can determine whose they are.
Can't do that.
But why would it matter, Tom?
Well,
The
because-
document that's legal is the zoning reg itself, and these are just explanations of it. And they've accepted that as the language.
Can you change that document once it's been recorded? Or you have to amend the document?
Yeah, you can't change it, but I'll look at it
Right.
and see
We had to add a page.
if it's
553.
legible on that document, and you just need a new document scanned into the
If that's the issue, yes.
Right, and there's no changes to this, you didn't change anything in here, you're just taking it and accepting it for what it is. And all the typing is legible.
See, there should have been a name line and a signature line, right? Really? Because you can't read these
Yeah.
signatures.
So their name's not typed underneath the, yeah, they should.
Yeah, but I maintain you could throw this away. It doesn't matter who signed it because you're accepting this language. You could have written this language like they did everything else. And it's part of the document that the resolution is.
It's online.
So,
It's just citing this resolution as a document.
That's a long time ago. Might be.
We'll check it out.
okay, thank you.
I'll delegate that. to John.
Are you sure that's Kit's signature?
That's not a kid.
He wasn't a commissioner then.
Holy smoke.
That's 2006.
And that's why I just think it's poor business. No idea. I mean, we could go back, probably figure out who the commissioners were, but these might not be commissioners.
Well, it really doesn't matter.
Well, it does to me.
It doesn't to me.
We're getting ready to sign this.
Well, you're signing it, you're signing the words, Tom, not the signatures. And we're not validating it. It's just the words. They could have typed, they could have retyped this and we just thought it was their stuff. Rather than wasting it.
Commissioners in and put.
Okay, we gotta get moving.
That's all we had for you.
So, bye. No, we gotta talk about one more thing, and that is, Patrick Lynch has
Oh.
resigned, and we'd like.
That's not on
That's
only
not-
business.
Oh, okay. I'll
If
come back.
you let us get to doing what this
I'll come
meeting's
back.
supposed to be doing.
Bill? You're angry.
Hey, thanks, Vic, you put a lot of time in, you guys did.
Well, thanks for giving the time there. I think it's going to be useful when you have your hearing.
And Clint, just real quick, all that stuff you put in cease and desist, like we cross-referenced some of it, it's verbatim out of state statute.
It's my language. I drafted it.
Okay.
But some of it was statute.
Statute.
It's legally correct is
I
what
don't know,
he's
I
saying. All
meloned it.
right, let's take 5 minutes and.
Gentlemen, I have an appointment to take my dog to the vet. I gotta get going.
So we're in recess.
Yeah, we'll take a quick recess.
Okay, thank you, boys. It's
Thank
been
you.
fun.
What did you say, Jack?
Back in session, it's 1:15. Now we can get into the new business. Which seems like it's been a long time.
Well, as Kelly mentioned, we probably should have handled that as a
Separate
special
workshop.
workshop, really.
Surprised we didn't.
We didn't really do it justice today, but
Well, they thought they could just put it in here and let us go digest it separately. We should have done it differently. All right, so let's move forward then. So the next thing up, I guess, Tracy, you're good with waiting to the end here?
I'm okay.
All right.
I'm
So,
interpreting.
all right, you are. All right, new business, public comment after each item. This is consideration for a couple things. And then a presentation is the last thing. Tracy, there's no decision here, is it? You just information?
Oh, well,
It's a discussion. Okay, we'll see what happens. Okay, first out of the chalks, consideration of resolution 21-02 citizens' rights. Let's see. Rights of citizens. Okay, this was a resolution that was rewritten by our county attorney to be applicable to Custer County for consideration. And it's a resolution by the Board of County Commissioners for the Custer County reasserting the rights of citizens of the Custer County and rejecting the unconstitutional limitations imposed upon their freedoms by the governor of Colorado. It's resolution number 21-02. So how do you propose to proceed here? We can introduce this or have a discussion first. Brothers, guys?
your choice.
Yeah. All right, well then we'll just do it and go up or down on it. Then I would propose that we accept this and consider signing this resolution -21-02. Resolution by the Board of County Commissioners for Custer County reasserting the rights of citizens of Custer County and rejecting the unconstitutional limitations imposed upon freedoms by the governor of the state of Colorado.
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, I'm moving that we do that.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 21-02. Discussion. Kevin, you have any thoughts?
Not right offhand. Go ahead.
Let me give you a quick summary. Just it really is that we would resolve. I'll mention this, made it easier to get the discussion going. The county will not honor or abide by executive orders limiting the attendance of our free speech at public meetings. That's just a resolution. Remember, this is not an ordinance. The Board of County Commissioners does not support the COVID restrictions that have an effect of shutting down businesses in Custer County. The Board of County Commissioner calls upon the governor to take all necessary steps to prevent harm to local businesses by reclassifying every business as an essential business. The Board of County Commissioners understands that notwithstanding the unconstitutional nature of the governor's orders, state authorities will attempt to pressure businesses to comply, and that such compliance may therein affect their livelihoods. The board therefore calls upon each business and individual to determine for themselves with due consideration for their best interest, the level to which they desire to comply with the governor's orders, constitutional orders, and the Board of County Commissioners further calls upon the businesses to be responsible in evaluating its own establishment and its capacity to safely accept the patrons upon the patrons to use their best judgment in entering the business and walk away if they do not feel safe on their assessment of the status of their title. So that's it. Other discussion now.
Yeah, I've got some points of discussion, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th whereas, no, it's the 5th whereas.
Okay, go ahead.
The government is only lawfully permitted to regulate the time and manner of public gatherings in the interest of public safety, peace, comfort, convenience. I had made a note when I reviewed this. Has this been a problem in Custer County? I guess one of my overarching questions is if we're addressing stuff in here, then it must have been an issue. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Or we
Or
just,
could be. I think I think it's looking at future restrictions probably too, Tom.
well, and God knows, right? We can't address future stuff.
Well, they're just really, I think it's making a solid statement that says we're protecting our right for assembly, public assembly.
I'm not arguing of the whereas statement. I'm saying, well, if we're mentioning it, has it been a problem?
But we haven't allowed it to be a problem.
No, I don't think so. So I didn't know why we were addressing it, but that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. Then the next whereas, January 4th, 2020, Polis altered restrictions. I looked and I couldn't find anything where he altered any restrictions. He definitely had some communications came out on that day. I have no idea. Somebody said, well, you voted for this flower. What restrictions did he alter? I have no clue about that.
Limitations on speech to meet the limited requirement of protecting health and safety of the public.
And then we're being asked to sign a resolution that includes that he altered these restrictions without regard to their purpose and for his own political interests. I don't have any clue what his political interests are. I have no idea. The second line of that same whereas, second one up from the bottom on page 12, Governor Polis altered restrictions on the citizens of Colorado without regard to their purpose and for his own political interests. I don't know what his political interests are. If you guys do, we should probably have that discussion.
You said that was on the
That was the sixth whereas.
sixth whereas. 1, 2, 3.
I'd made a note to myself, what restrictions are we talking about?
Oh, I see.
Polis on the 4th of January, Polis moved counties from red to orange. And how do we know he made decisions without regard to the public health and safety? And do we have proof of Polis's own political interests? And can we cite them, or is this someone's political opinion that they're asking us to sign off on? So that was my point there. The following whereas, it says governor's emergency orders as enforced by the state agencies deny the rights of people to peaceably assemble at government meetings. I don't think that's a true statement for Custer County. People have been able to attend our meetings, and they have to be able to by law. So I don't know about
They're
denying
attending
rights.
remotely, not assembling, I believe is what that is referring to.
Peacefully assemble, that's true.
Doing what? Assemble remotely?
Peaceably assemble at government meetings.
Right.
The assembly isn't a Zoom meeting.
Well, is that what you're saying? Zoom versus
Yeah,
live?
they're able to attend, like
Oh.
you said, but to assemble is,
Right.
I'm assuming, is to be in person to assemble.
Yeah, and I don't. I think if you wanted to call in, Zoom in, I don't know. So anyway, and then the last whereas a state of emergency that operates in perpetuity becomes a state of tyranny.
You're looking on the rest of the sentence.
What's in perpetuity mean? I mean, we don't have any proof that this whole state of emergency is going to be in perpetuity. So are we inferring that we think this state of emergency is going to go on forever? If we're putting the language in perpetuity in there.
Perpetuity becomes a state of tyranny. Depends on how you read it, I guess you're right.
And then number 1 on therefore be it resolved. Custer County will not honor or abide by any executive orders limiting attendance of and free speech at public meetings. I guess the same thing. Has that been an issue here? I don't know.
Limit attendance and free speech at public meetings.
Yeah, I didn't know he limited attendance.
The effect of the order limited the attendance.
And then number 3. Board of County Commissioners calls upon Governor Polis to take all necessary steps to prevent harm to local businesses by reclassifying every business as an essential business. So car wash, pet groomers, we believe those are essential businesses.
Anything that would, if you didn't do it and you were the guy that owned that pet business, you couldn't. So
Yeah,
Small
but
businesses
why,
are
why is it discriminatory on business? If you, the logic is if you could practice best as a pet groomer, you don't have to be, why is that going to spread COVID any worse? If you're not going to allow anybody in the door, give me your dog, which is what's happening.
right. I think the intent was when the state of emergency was declared that to protect the health of the citizens of our county, Polis, his people, CDPHE,
They discriminated.
said these businesses are essential for people to live their lives during this pandemic, right?
But if you're not working and you don't have the money to buy the food in the grocery store, then that's, then
But to me, it doesn't matter. Just because I own a business and I count on making that living from that business doesn't mean it's essential business for society. I could be a carnival barker, and that's, to me personally, is damn sure an essential business. But it doesn't have anything
Sure.
to do with what's essential for us to live our lives as a society during a pandemic.
but you got then the people that you can't, that are not working and aren't eating are dying. They take it to the extreme.
Okay,
And then why would you discriminate against that if you could have practiced the same safety measures as the stores, the big box stores, as opposed to a little store? They ought to have the same right to earn a living by doing by social
Well-
distancing, by all those things. Why did they cut out any business?
I think because this is my thought, I mean, everybody's gonna have a different opinion, obviously. Because they were trying to determine what businesses should remain open during this pandemic to allow us to live in this society.
But if we apply it to Custer County, Tom, I wouldn't want to exclude any of our stores if they could keep a door open and get 3 customers in a day and make whatever they can make. And under those good practices, not spreading it, then we should allow them to have that opportunity.
It's essential business to the guy who owns the business.
Well, it's essential
Right.
business to the county.
The car wash is not an essential business to the health and
Yeah, that's
well-being of this community, of this
If
county.
all that car wash owner did to make a living, then it is.
Again, you
essential
go,
to him.
it's essential to him. I agree 1,000%.
That's 100%. So
Exactly.
I don't want to
Agree.
discriminate against anybody in this county and not give them the opportunity to work. Just be, and to have a store or whatever it is, a restaurant, store, a beauty parlor, or whatever, as long as they're not putting themselves in a position where you're spreading the bug. That was the whole reason they did it. That was the limitation. And what's happened, in my view, they've gotten so there's no consistency to the rulings. For example, shut down a church, keep a bar open. You can still have a number of people in a church. It's about providing the safety of whatever that business is, whether it's a church, a school, or whatever. So I think it's reasonable, especially given the county and how we have been so far taking care of things. They can't trace COVID coming from any of the restaurants. They can't trace it coming from any of even the big stores in town here. Really, I think the biggest kicker has been probably out of town coming in from being exposed, and then a person coming in here and bringing it in. I can't see it being spread after it was here, because they've been practicing good common sense, maybe.
Yeah. Well, let me finish, and then we can move on. And then in number 4, second sentence, the board therefore calls upon each business and individual to determine for themselves, with a due consideration of their best interests, the level to which they desire to comply with the governor's orders. So without any regard to our public health agency.
No, I think that's a good point.
And then the same
Best
thing
practice.
for number 5. The commissioners calls upon each business to be responsible for evaluating its own establishment. That whole sentence, basically then we're saying that we don't believe public health agency has responsibility to evaluate your business in a pandemic of whether or not you're conducting your business in a health and safety safe manner.
Right. Now, you're making a good point there, and I saw that too. It's what the recommendations of our own public health agency would evaluate that are best for their safety to consider what they feel they can do. And then it would be on the citizen, to, not just the business. The business can say, I'm perfectly safe, and y'all can walk in here and spit on each other. Well, the person that wants to see that and do that would be crazy, right? Because he's walking into trouble. So it works on both sides. You have the responsibility yourself. If you don't feel safe, stay out of that business. So maybe a couple of these be tailored in order to make it be what I think the intent is.
Yeah, given the circumstances of the day, I agree, Mr. Chairman, 100% that we need to look at them. I would move that we postpone this until the next meeting.
And we'll talk with Clint. We need to and also I would ask that get Dr. Brown involved in understanding what the public health agency's role would be in helping us, because I would expect recommendations to be, and as a matter of fact, we've asked Dr. Brown when we asked him in our last meeting to move us down to yellow, that he take a look at each business and understand what that means and give them the opportunity to do the best they could under those restrictions. And he did that.
Right.
So I think that would be a good thing.
Yeah, I seconded this motion to consider this. I'd love to tell Polis what we think. What we think.
Right.
I don't want to tell Polis what somebody else told us to think.
That's
if
why
we sign this,
right.
In my opinion, it should be what we believe.
That's why we have it. That was just to get the discussion going and make it tailored to us.
Right.
We had to get the discussion going.
Right, exactly. So,
in your motion, you say the next meeting, which is tomorrow.
sorry.
Are you
I didn't
talking
mean
about?
No, let's do the Wetmore meeting.
17.
And then I wonder, is that going to be,
That should be. Because
we're going to ask some people to go down there then and have a discussion with us on
Yeah.
to Wetmore.
Right, because it's going to be open anyway. And we'll get the discussion going. And then partly is because at that same time, it depends on what the public health agency and the state are agreeing on what our next color is really to make a recommendation to us. So it would be timely. Because what we don't want to do is bounce back and forth.
You still need a second on that.
Correct, yeah. I just moved to postpone this until February 17th meeting.
Do we need to address the first motion before that or not?
Well, that's a great point, although
Well, no.
the motion to postpone takes precedence over a main motion.
Okay.
It actually does. So the intent is if this motion to postpone passes, then you're also agreeing that we don't consider this, the main motion, which was to consider this right now.
Redo it.
Yeah.
The last time we did that, didn't that motion carry over to the next meeting?
Yes. Yeah, if I move to postpone this item of business,
Then we're
which
going
is
to
the main
consider it
motion,
again.
then we postpone it. If the motion passes, then we postpone it until the next meeting and it comes up on the agenda again, just like it is.
Modify it and say we're postponing it to just this for consideration, to be specific to what.
Yeah, move to postpone this resolution until February 17th. And then that motion that I made, or that you made actually,
I
right?
made the motion, you seconded it.
And then that motion, original main motion, carries over to the agenda.
So we'll consider the resolution, but we'll have had the opportunity to make it specific to the county to consider, right? I mean, the
We
word,
could, yeah. We may do it then.
that's what I mean.
But to Kelly's point, my motion to postpone inherently if it passes, inherently carries your motion to the next meeting too. It really kind of infringes upon your right of the motion you made. See, you made the motion to consider this today, right?
Right.
And then I made a subsidiary motion to postpone it until the next meeting.
You're right. We considered it. Maybe postponing is the wrong word then.
No, it wouldn't be. It's either table or postpone.
Yeah.
And either one of those motions takes precedence over a main motion. That's why it would work.
And if he made the motion to consider this resolution, do you actually need a new motion if you make changes to consider?
No, because it's the
Or
same
does it
It'd still
resolution.
be
Same
considered.
It's the same resolution. It's just.
It might be amended before we're all.
It'll
done.
be, it would be whatever we look at that day
Right,
and under that resolution, and we're not changing that nor the intent.
right. Excuse me.
Okay.
So that would be my motion to postpone until February 17th.
Okay, is there a
I
second?
would second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to postpone that public comment, Tracy,
Great. I just want to.
on that motion,
Yeah, oh,
on
on which,
the
On the postpone.
postpone.
oh,
And then does that not allow any other discussion, Tom?
Well-
We can, I want to hear what she's got to say.
Technically, you were headed down the right road, but the public comments on the vote,
Right.
but I'm fine with it.
Yeah, go ahead and make
I
it.
don't care.
okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's up to us.
On the one part where you were speaking of citizens' ability to communicate during meetings, I would actually argue that removing citizens' ability to chat during Zoom meetings, which that feature was removed and then put back on after the first of the year. And I would argue that that did take away our ability to communicate
That's
our
right.
thoughts and information we wanted to communicate. Also, we were stuck listening via telephone, which it was very hard to communicate in that capability,
Sure.
which is what we were stuck with.
Right.
And that was kind of on Polis about that. And then the only other point I wanted to make is one thing that I've heard over and over and over and over and over by citizens that is stuck in their craw is the comment that not all businesses are essential. All businesses are essential,
We're discussing that.
Absolutely.
It is.
period.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, good points. And those are things that I think cleaning up the language here will help address to make sure it's explicit.
I actually looked up a symbol too, because I was curious, and it says of people to gather in one place for a common purpose.
Right.
Yeah, and
That's what physical means.
we don't need to get in a big diatribe here, but I absolutely agree that all these businesses are essential for the business owners. I can live my life just fine without a pet groomer, for example,
Right. But
but for the pet groomer owner, it's
Sure.
essential. Two different things.
and that's right. It's a different point of view. And also, if everybody said, okay, let's just stay home and nobody went to work, you couldn't live. You couldn't survive at home. So eventually, how do you make that determination? And so that's why.
Yeah, my assumption was there are people a heck of a lot more in tune to what's going on in the world than me that made to determine what they believed were essential for us to carry on our lives during a pandemic.
All right. So, any other comments? All right, let's call for the vote on postponing this. All in favor, say aye. Tom?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
Randall? Aye.
And the assumption is then that you're gonna invite Cliff and.
Yep, and we'll get Cliff
Of course, Clint will be there.
and Clint and others that are necessary. We'll have this restructured so that we can consider a more exact application to the county. Okay, next on the agenda, Planning Commission appointment, and
It was on the way over.
she is.
Yeah, we just
Take a deep breath, Tracy. You'll get a chance.
we need to approve Skip Northcross to take Patrick Lynch's place.
There she is.
Your jackiness, thank you for being here.
Mhm.
You have a consideration, we're ready to move into considering Planning Commission appointment. You want to
Okay,
present?
so Patrick Lynch has resigned. And so we'd like to move Skip Northcross up to that position. We have two associates. We have Skip Northcross and Mary Mowry, and we moved Skip up there.
'Cause she has
and he
more-
is-
he has more time and grade.
Yes,
Okay. You know, hear a motion?
Well, I would move to appoint Skip Northcross to the Planning Commission, correct? Not the
As a-
BZA.
yeah, Planning Commission seated member.
Seated member.
Second?
I would.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Skip Norcross to the Planning Commission. Any discussion? More discussion?
Mary's been on as an
Associate.
alternate. We said we weren't gonna call him that associate member. Thank you. For how long, roughly? Less than a year?
A little bit over a year.
It's been around a while. Any other discussion?
How many on your,
7,
including this appointment?
yes. So you have 7 seated members on your Planning Commission now, and then the alternates.
How
Did you
many,
bring up an associate then? or-
how many associates?
Associates, we have 1. But
How
then
do you get an associate?
how do
How do
you,
you keep the supply of associates and plenty
well, and that's what's nice, we can
taken as
take some.
BZA,
BZA?
they can serve as an associate to
No, I'm
PC.
wrong, the Planning Commission can jump to the BZA, but the BZA cannot.
So
jump to the
you will
Planning.
go find another associate member for the Planning Commission?
If the Planning Commission wants. I only have to have 5 show up at a meeting to have a quorum.
Okay. All right. Any other comments?
And that's a recommendation, correct,
Please,
from the Planning Commission?
yes.
All right. All in favor?
Should have public comment
I
technically.
thought it did. Technically, more comment, anything?
Let's see who's.
Anybody out there want to comment?
Apparently we went over what, well, we do have one
We
guest.
got one guest still on. All right, hearing none, all in favor of appointing Skip Norcross to the Planning Commission? Say aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Tom?
I with the fact that this is a 3-year appointment.
Can I?
So January 1, 2024, correct?
Well, actually, he's taking,
Oh, he's taking Lynch's place.
so
So it's
he,
to fill out his term and then,
so it's just filling out his
Right.
term.
Tina's looking to see what his expiration date was, which is kind of important, right, that we get.
if it's 6 months, we're going to expect another nomination.
I think we have 2 years left on Patrick, or 1.
I was thinking it was 23.
That's what I think,
Board
2023.
appointments,
I don't have his,
Planning Commission. Patrick Lynch, he was one of 23. So that's when this term would expire for
About a year.
Skip Norcross. So I would,
and then we'll be looking at him or somebody else to continue. All right. Done.
he comes out and Skip goes in, right? And that,
Thank you.
Jackie, do you have Oh, and John Johnston, he went away.
John Johnson's in BZA,
So he's not
alternate.
he cannot be an associate member to
Yes,
PC?
no, only the PC can jump to the BZA.
Okay, so we got a problem. Because it's listed on our appointments as associates to the planning commission and the board of zoning adjustment.
Right, and I'll read the regs and get that.
So those probably need to be split out, right? So John Johnston is not.
Not for North.
We're for both.
My associates, yeah, my associates go for both.
Oh, they do?
Uh-huh.
So John Johnson's still an associate,
No, John Johnson got
He's on
appointed to the
but an
BZA.
associate could go either way.
Yes,
Okay, they can't be on one board and still be an associate. Am I hearing you correctly?
correct,
So John Johnson is not an associate, we know that, and neither is Skip Northcross.
correct.
Continental.
So Mary Mowry is your only
Associate.
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 I need 5 for a quorum. And I have 7.
And what about BZA?
BZA, I have Gene Canterbury, Lockett Pittman, Brad Hartbauer, and John Johnson. And their roles are totally different.
Right,
Okay, all right, let's move on.
so he is fire 23, Scott Northcross, huh?
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay, Tracy,
All right, do you want me to come up there?
you can if you want, or you can talk loudly back there.
Did they vote? Did you vote?
No, we were still discussing.
Did public comment, but you didn't vote.
Oh, yeah, probably did. How quickly time went. Okay. Let's vote.
Okay.
Aye.
Hand out. Yeah, we're tied up.
Mhm.
All right. Tracy, if you want to come up and you can sit comfortably in that chair and talk loud enough.
Do you guys shake hands
Yeah,
even during COVID?
you're good.
Okay.
How are you?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Good.
Thank you. for
Thank
coming.
you.
Your hands are cold.
I am freezing. All right. Thank you for letting me come to speak today. It was brought to my attention from VSO John Carroll last week that part of the reason behind his resignation from the post was the way the food pantry was being run over at the VSO. And he suggested I come to speak with you to offer a plan on how I might be able to change the process moving forward. And I just wanted to go into a brief history of my Neighbor's Cupboard. It's located in Penrose. They run the mobile food markets in the surrounding area, including Custer County. And those are similar to the ones that we're going to have this coming Saturday that Mayor Wenzel mentioned that he invited all of you 3 to attend as well. The food distributions have served over 3,000 families with over 190,000 tons of food being given to citizens since it first started in 2019. Each distribution during the mobile markets provides 60 pounds to each family, which includes meat, fresh fruit and vegetables, shelf-stable items, and staples. The lines are long and the neighbors that drive through are very grateful. They do have to go through a series of questions before we give them their item and pass them through. At that time, we ask them if they receive other benefits, if they have any pets, if they're a veteran, things of that nature, and that's how they're classified, plus also senior citizens. And I have that sheet here if you'd like to see that as well. Due to the food insecurity we have in the valley, we found a need to start a branch of My Neighbor's Cupboard up here in Custer County. As I said, we serve veterans and families, senior citizens, regardless of whether they served in the armed forces. No one is turned away. Because of the fact that our local care and share has a very limited amount of food that they're able to give each family. And the same is true for food that is distributed by Department of Human Services. The need for My Neighbor's Cupboard is great. We are able, through our cupboard, to present each family with 20 pounds of food. plus all the fresh fruit and vegetables that their family would be able to eat in 1 week. And that does include eggs as well. So they're able to receive that. Our plan moving forward is to operate 2 times each week from the VSO. We're proposing a Wednesday.
Can I ask a quick
Yes.
question? Because otherwise it will get lost. 20 pounds per week. Is there anything that qualifies them or disqualifies them to get it the next week?
No,
So it could go on in perpetuity.
right.
And whether or not they got a job or not sustaining themselves, would you have a way of knowing that, or does it matter somehow? I'm just curious. Because I know the VSO and the 8 human resources have, for example, a salary limit or, wages that people are making. If they exceed that, then they.
Right. Well, they do have to, we get their information from the TFAP form. That we file. And then the persons that we've had utilize our services have definitely been in need.
Yeah, I'm
And
not doubting. I just wanted to make sure that if
sure,
sometime maybe they wouldn't be, and then you have a way of not just continuing, and then all of a sudden you're supplying food for everybody in the whole community.
right. And that's a very good question, actually. I am not sure the answer to that, but I will definitely find that out for you. Because like I said, that is a very, very good question. Are you fine with my continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We're proposing a Wednesday evening and a Saturday morning that we would do the weekly handout, or not handouts, but the items to those that need that extra help. That way we would not be in the way of the VSO that was there, and they wouldn't have to be bothered with dealing with all of this additional and the traffic, right? It's exactly. And I will handle all the paperwork with that, and we'll have a few volunteers to assist with gathering the food and helping to take it to the vehicle. After we are finished, the facility will be restored to its original condition as when we entered. One of the issues brought to my attention was the chaotic nature of the basement. I will personally go and clean that up, and we will not spill out into space that has not been deemed for our use. We are also in the process of seeking grants to find a permanent location. But as we all know, that may take a little bit of time. And I wanted to say, on behalf of My Neighbor's Cupboard, am asking for the time to do so, as well as the opportunity to stay housed at the county annex until we are able to move into that permanent home. We implore you to give us a chance to serve the citizens of Custer County, those friends, families, and constituents you serve in their times of need. Thank you for your time and consideration. Any other questions you might have, I'm happy to answer if I can. Or
So is your distribution and your storage at the VSO?
we have food everywhere, actually. All of our meats and so forth right now are up at Sky Ranch. And before we distribute, we go up there and we get that food. Most of our canned items and things of that nature, boxed shelf stable items, are over at the VSO, both downstairs and upstairs in cupboards, and we can't wait for a permanent location. And then we also have items in a storage unit that we rented in Silver Cliff. And there is also some stored at the Silver Cliff Town Shop on pallets. So that's where we are right now.
So your intent is, Tracy, is to keep the room that's stocked, the basement that's stocked there now, basically at the same level that it is for now while you're operating until you get another spot, and you're going to continue to use the other locations as well.
Right. There's no way we could get everything that we have right now housed in just the VSO. So Yes, we
or
are.
anywhere else out of the VSO for now.
Right. And we're looking at one location in particular that if we were able to get this would be phenomenal. But in the meantime, we are really needing to stay at the county annex if we can.
Yes, sir. A couple things, I guess. You say due to the food insecurity, how are you defining food insecurity that we have in the valley? What's that really mean? We don't have enough food, the food's not safe.
Families are not able to get the food they need for their family. We have seen an influx of people, even from Cotopaxi and Hillside, coming for food distributions. They cannot afford enough food for their families on the little bit of income that they're bringing in, and a lack of jobs as well. So that's how I define food insecurity.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking food shortage. I don't think we have
No.
a food shortage in Custer County.
We definitely
They just have a
don't.
money shortage.
And then
Yes.
you say we found a need to start a branch of My Neighbor's Cupboard in Custer County. Who is
Right.
that? Who is we?
That is My Neighbor's Cupboard, and it's also Dave Pierce, who is also involved, Peg Leg, as most people,
Involved
in branching out up here in Custer
So My
County.
Neighbor's Cupboard
Correct.
has found a need to start a branch.
Right.
Okay.
That is correct.
And then I've gotten mixed messages, one here today, one from a prior conversation with a board member for Karen Share. I don't think that board member would agree with this statement. I'm assuming this is your statement, that Karen Share has a very limited amount of food. I don't believe that based on a conversation I had with a board member. Now, maybe there's something I don't know, but that board member told me that Karen Share had more food than they could give away. So that doesn't line up with a very limited amount of food here.
That is from several citizens that have gone to the Karen Share. They're only able to get like 5 pounds, which that doesn't give you much if you're hungry. That is where we're getting that information, is from a lot of citizens as well as what we have.
Well, I would urge caution on your language here, because the last thing we need to do is isolate Karen Share, who feeds
No, I
a lot of
agree.
people in this valley and have for years. I don't know how long this My Neighbor's Cupboard's been coming up here, but certainly don't think they've been coming up here as long as this Karen Share's been in operation. So just want to be sensitive to those folks as well.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't
And
agree
then
more.
Who has the food hand? Well, has a very limited amount of food is
Well,
not
that's
a little mixed message.
Well,
And then who has the food handler's license?
go ahead and finish that.
I will be doing that.
You'll be getting a food handler's
Yes,
license?
yes, absolutely.
So from my perspective, Tracy, then if what you mean by very limited is what their capacity is
Correct.
to,
No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Very limited amount of
I
food.
know, so I'm asking her to define that.
Being presented
Is
to,
it because they don't
people
have
that
the
come.
stores, or is it that's their flow and then they current, I call it clientele, people they're giving it to, that's all that they have available, or can they do more if they had more food?
from my understanding, it's what they are allowed to give out. And My Neighbor's Cupboard has deemed that 20 pounds is what they will give out. That is what they have decided they are going to give.
Okay, so it's just a different,
Right.
Tom's right, if seems like there's enough people here, the more you can get, the better it is. So that would be 25 pounds per family,
Right.
basically,
Right.
between the two of them.
right.
It's not like they're gonna stop, are they?
No, no.
So again, you say we serve veterans, you're talking about My Neighbors Covered here when you say we.
Right, I'm presenting on behalf of
Okay,
My Neighbors Covered, and I'm involved.
all right. So where does the other groups that have been dealing with these food giveaways figure into this?
Such as, are you
Are
speaking
there
of
other groups giving food out besides My Neighbors Covered and
Care and
Care and
Share.
Share?
DHS? They also give out
Right,
the distributions.
yeah, I was thinking non-county
Oh,
stuff.
I
sorry,
see,
But
I see.
American Legion, are they doing any of that or no?
We've been doing it along with My Neighbors Covered and so forth. We get a lot of food from there.
But you take, you don't have a separate source of food in the American Legion to compete.
Not that I'm
taking
aware
food
of.
From my Hubbard's Covered, My Neighbors Covered, or the food bank.
No, it's, yeah, and the Legion as well as ECV, which is E. Clampus Vitus, as well as the VFW also participate in the food drives.
In the distribution.
In the
And
distribution
the
as well.
supply is what we're talking about.
Correct.
Yeah, have you gentlemen been in the basement of the VSO office?
Yeah.
When was the last time you were in there?
Month,
Good.
6 months or so since I've been down there, I think.
a lot of room, comfortable.
No, I just don't think we have any business trying to do a food distribution thing out of the basement of the VSO office. I get that the alternatives are probably few and far between. I would ask if you've explored any alternatives.
We have, which is what I mentioned in this
Your plan is to
document.
move as soon as you can. And
Correct.
You don't know where yet, or you got a prime site.
We have an idea of a place that we're working on. And we're looking at grants and so forth.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, and we weren't aware of the deal that was cut initially, but that's water under the bridge. We've got a situation now, and we sure don't want to be in a position to be saying we're going to throw it out and then have people penalized. But it
Right.
sure does need to be taken care of as quick as we can.
I absolutely agree. And that's why I'm taking this on to make sure that we get everything streamlined and organized better than it has been in the past.
So you're the mouthpiece, not peg leg. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
He'll be the muscle and I'll be the,
Okay, I sort of had the impression that, that's good to know. We need to know who's in charge.
Do you have a timeline or general timeline?
I knew you were going to ask that. I am praying and hoping 6 months. I don't know how realistic that might be. I mean,
You looking for donations or grants, or what do you?
everything. And we're also going to be reaching out to the owner of the building to see if they would do any kind of like tax write-off.
You heard this and didn't want to mess with the rent or anything. Is that true?
We're limited on what we could do for rent, but we would certainly be open.
So you're negotiating.
Yes.
We'll see.
And and it being the county annex building, we're hoping that, since it's not just the VSO housed there, there's also, the interrogation room for the SO and things of that
And there's other
nature.
meetings in there.
And
held there.
yes, that could also be taken into consideration because we are serving constituents as well.
Yeah.
Constituents that vote for us to be in office, you're saying?
Well, I mean, constituents of any office holder in this county.
Sure.
Our friends and neighbors, our family members,
You're
We're
talking
here
about
to
the
help.
citizens of the county.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I think the question needs to be asked, do we deal with a new VSO officer? Do we consider this request without a VSO officer? I mean, obviously that was a huge issue, so.
Well, whoever we get has to understand there is a issue, not an issue. It's a item that's in work. On the entry into the job, you'd have to work the schedule with him. I mean, proposing these days may work or may not, and you may have to adjust what
Absolutely.
he thinks.
And I was open, I'm completely open to that as well. I was just trying to think of an evening time and a morning time where we wouldn't be all on top of each other and impeding space.
Did you run it by John, just the options? Did you think that would be reasonable?
I have not, but yet.
I know you'd have to run it up against with the new guy, but
Right.
maybe he had some suggestions that you would want to consider with the new VSO.
I have not yet because I wanted to speak with you guys first.
How many times a week does My Neighbor's Cupboard come up now?
Right now, for the mobile markets, it's generally once a quarter or, well, we had one last month and we're having one this Saturday. Other than that, it's very periodic with the big, huge mobile markets that take place over at the school parking lot. And that's always a Saturday. So that would still be over there at the school. This would just be.
How often do they come to stock up the VSO, for example?
Oh gosh. I don't know exactly, but that would
Depending on how quick
it would
distributed.
Right. And we would definitely run that by the VSO and make sure that it was an agreed upon time. We wouldn't just barrel in there.
And
No.
you're, sorry, go ahead, no,
I'm sorry.
wait.
I had a question then. Your distribution versus the VSO distribution, you're a totally different distribution than what the VSO historically had. And then you partnered together. Is that my understanding?
I believe so. And it just kind of took on a life of its own, from what I understand. It just kind of grew. And John Carroll worked with My Neighbor's Cupboard very, very well. And there was some kind of an agreement, from what I understand, that they had, and then everything.
So you intend, in other words, to continue the obligations that the VSO from the veterans point of view has and will continue to do in partnership so that they're handled, right? The
Right.
people that John, in this case, have deemed necessary to keep supply of food with.
Right. And, as well, I want to make sure it's understood that we also serve senior citizens and young families and, whomever is in need. It's not just veterans.
Veterans. That
Well-
could be served, but it's not a veteran service deal.
Right,
It's for
it's
anybody in the
more than
community.
Right.
So it's key to John's clientele understands that they're not going to drop just because John's gone until.
Absolutely.
So, right.
Absolutely.
And you know what his list is.
Mhm.
Okay.
And you've seen the amount of food in the basement.
Yes.
And what's the plan to deal with it, of which most of it appears to be out of date?
I need to get in there and really get it organized and get it looked through, because I agree. There are a lot of things that need to be checked
Yeah.
and so forth.
It has to be
Yeah.
cleaned up.
Absolutely. And, we have spilled out, all of our stuff is spilled out and it's not organized in the least, and it's just chaos. And I am not about chaos. I like things to be organized. So
That probably is a problem.
It is
how
a-
they evolved and haphazard fashion that it did. That was wrong.
Right, absolutely. And I've been involved with the food distribution since the beginning, with the mobile markets, but this is, I've only been involved with this about a month. So I'm still trying to get a handle on everything, but I'm committed to making it work for our citizens and, everything we need to do. And, if an agreement needs to be worked out and signed, I'm happy to do that. Whatever we can do to keep it going.
Yeah. Well, it would be a thing that you would really need to work with the new VSO to get
Absolutely.
the transition out of there eventually, but to keep it going the way it is.
Absolutely.
That's all I have. Thank you.
John? Or John?
Either one of us have anything.
Both of you are okay. I am too, Tracy. Thanks for taking the time to do this because
Absolutely.
it was, we had no clue as it evolved over Christmas and turned into chaos.
Yes, I didn't either,
We
to
had
be
no idea
honest.
who told what to who, but it's there now and I'm glad that somebody's grabbing the bull by the horn. So thank you.
Absolutely. And do we have permission to be there at least until we get everything figured out?
Look at that from a consensus point of view. You want to vote on that now or do you?
Not according to this.
That's right. So right now you're there
Okay.
and we can put it on the agenda for middle of the month. We'll certify it.
Okay.
Or consider it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Consider it to make, and then what I meant is by considering it to make it legal.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah, and I think in all fairness, I need to tell you, not everybody's thrilled about the whole deal.
Oh, I'm well
Yes.
aware of
Yeah.
some individuals that are not. So,
Speaking of constituents.
Yeah.
So we'll have to take that under consideration.
Okay,
okay.
thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Thanks for your work.
All right, do we want to do anything else? Got the rest of the afternoon. There's nothing at the bottom of my agenda, is there, that I'm missing?
Well, I'd
Other
like
than,
to milk it out for another 20 minutes because then you would hold the record of chairing. the longest meeting.
Not my fault. I'm gonna blame the planning.
Well, that's what I tried to say.
And it was, and we should have seen that coming when they wanted to do it in this meeting. I thought about it. But didn't do anything about it. All right. Any other public comments on something other than what we've talked about that might be brought up? Anybody?
Only got one person, so.
Let's see them lighten up out there. All right. We'll look this time for a motion to adjourn.
I would move that we adjourn.
You want to keep?
I would second.
All right. Then moving second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
All right.